Chapter 1171. Shirluo County was bustling with activity. With the return of Lin Feng, a big investment was made. A huge sum of money fell into Shirluo County, and at an average price of 30% higher than the market price. He bought land, shops, auction houses, and so on. The establishment of the Qin Chamber of Commerce was like a thunder in spring. The name of the boss behind the scenes, Lin Feng, reverberated like thunder. Even the largest Luo clan chamber of commerce in the Vermilion Bird continent had to avoid him. Who dared to offend Lin Feng now? Lin Feng's deeds of killing the three ancients on the day of the wedding had already spread throughout the Vermilion Bird continent. Not to mention, Lin Feng also wore the hat of Vice President of the Union of Artificers. His background was very strong. Soon, just a few days after the establishment of the Qin Chamber of Commerce, countless large and small forces came to discuss cooperation, including the Lin clan. They appointed the Qin Chamber of Commerce as a direct seller of artifacts. It was a family behind closed doors. And now, Lin Feng was no longer in Shirluo County. Building a teleportation channel from the Yellow Crane continent to the Vermilion Bird continent was simple, but building a long-distance teleportation channel from the Vermilion Bird continent to the Kingdom of Maru was not easy. However, wealth could reach the sky. With Lin Feng's wealth and reputation, he completed it in 2 days with the help of Master Yan Qing. At this time, he had already returned to his hometown with Yuma and Qianqian. He returned to his hometown. In fact, Lin Feng was the retired emperor of the Kingdom of Maru. In Shirluo County and the Vermilion Bird continent, Lin Feng was like a hero, a godlike existence. His reputation was built on his strength. In the Kingdom of Maru, every warrior respected Lin Feng from the bottom of their hearts. They worshipped Lin Feng and knelt down like a god. Every city had a statue of Lin Feng. Whether it was the common people, merchants, or nobles, they were all very pious. Without Lin Feng, there would be no the Kingdom of Maru today. Holy King! Wow! It's so beautiful! This was the first time Lin Yuma and Qin Qianqian had come to the hunting country. The three of them transformed into commoners. Lin Feng took the 2 girls for a stroll in the city, experiencing the purest local customs. Wu Dong followed behind them. The Kingdom of Maru, which was under the rule of Lin Yun, was now peaceful and peaceful. Everyone lived and worked in peace and contentment, and the sound of pleasant laughter could be heard everywhere. Lin De Gu, what is that? Qin Qianqian pointed straight ahead. What a huge golden statue! Lin Yuma's beautiful eyes flashed. By the time Lin Feng raised his head and looked ahead, the 2 girls had already disappeared without a trace, and Wu Dong was right behind them. With a carefree smile, Lin Feng immediately followed. Whoosh! Lin Feng's figure flashed, and he arrived in the middle of the 2 girls. At this time, Lin Yuma and Qin Qianqian raised their heads and looked at the huge golden eagle that was hundreds of feet tall. Looking at the golden statue in a daze, the 2 girls' beautiful eyes flashed, and their small mouths opened in surprise. At this time, how dare you? Impudent! In an instant, there was a burst of angry voices around them. In front of the golden statue, there were thousands of people kneeling and worshipping sincerely, and no one was standing. Only Lin Feng and the other 3 looked so awkward. Seeing that the 4 of them were ignoring the statue, it immediately aroused the anger of the crowd, and the scolding came like a wave. Lin Yuma and Qin Qianqian were also shocked, but they still saw the golden statue clearly. Including Lin Feng, who had already seen it, smiled bitterly. Lin De Gu, why does this golden statue look so much like you? Qin Qianqian asked hesitantly. Although her voice was not loud, everyone heard it. It was like lighting a fuse, adding fuel to the fire, and the crowd was furious. How dare you insult the sage emperor? Everyone go, catch them! Disrespect to the sage emperor is a capital offense. Qin Qianqian's face turned pale with fright. Lin Yuma's beautiful eyes sparkled as she looked at the golden statue thoughtfully. Lin Feng, on the other hand, had a bitter look on his face. Seeing the crowd rushing over like a mob, he could neither advance nor retreat. How could he not know that the golden statue was actually him? His younger brother Lin Yun had mentioned it before, but he did not take it to heart. In fact, this was the first time he saw it. These angry commoners worshipped him as if he was a god, and they were so devout. He had no reason to hurt them, but he was even more unwilling to let them affect Qianqian. In an instant, Lin Feng's qi spread out with a bang. He used a bit of gentleness to separate the crowd. But, strange. Lin Feng frowned slightly as a thought struck him. He felt that the force he separated seemed to have a different existence. Was it an illusion? Looking at the crowd, the strongest was only at the Star River level. Their angry expressions were not fake but real. However, he felt that something was wrong. It was as if there was a pair of invisible hands pushing them. It was very strange. Let's go. Lin Feng looked at Yuma and Qianqian and said softly. Although he had doubts, now was not the time to resolve them. Leaving was the best option. There was no need to explain. Should he tell the surrounding martial artists that he was Lin Feng, the Holy King? Would they believe him? It was better to leave, to avoid any more conflicts. Lin Yuma and Qin Qianqian did not reply. Suddenly Lin Feng frowned. He felt a powerful force rushing over at an extremely fast speed. He was surprised. The force was very familiar. Lin Feng said softly, "Oh," and looked back. In an instant, whoosh! A fiery red figure came straight at them. "Audacious madman, how dare you cause trouble here?" A delicate voice came from afar. It was a delicate and petite figure with white teeth and moon-like eyebrows. Her aura was quite powerful. Wu Dong's eyes lit up. He stood in front to protect his master loyally. The strength of the newcomer was much stronger than these ordinary martial artists. Star Lord level. "It's Hunter Master Qin. Everyone back off. The Hunter Master is here." "Great!" Surprised voices sounded. Everyone quickly backed off. This fiery red figure seemed to have an extremely high reputation here and was respected by everyone. Hunter Master Qin. Lin Feng smiled indifferently. He knew who the newcomer was. Since the establishment of the Kingdom of Maru, the Hunter Master had changed a lot. Although Lan Heyu still had the title of Hunting Master, he rarely showed himself. The current master of the Hunting Master was the new Hunting Master, Qin Ro. She was also his first disciple. "How have you been?" Lin Feng's figure flashed slightly. He stood in front of Wu Dong to avoid unnecessary conflict. Qin Ro's flying figure finally saw the person who had arrived. Her beautiful eyes widened as the surging aura instantly disappeared without a trace. Her extremely beautiful oval-shaped face was filled with shock, but it quickly turned into a rich joy. "Master!" Qin Ro shouted excitedly. This shout shocked everyone. The people who were like waves just now were all stunned. They looked at everything in front of them in disbelief. They knew Qin Ro. The title of Hunter Master was not in vain. In today's the Kingdom of Maru, Qin Ro's strength was second only to Monarch Lin Yun. And her master, it was none other than the legendary Holy Empire Lord, Lin Feng. There was complete silence. Only now did the people see Lin Feng's true face. Their eyes almost popped out. Although they had never seen the Holy King's true face, their daily worship had long been imprinted in their hearts. Lin Feng's appearance was not exactly similar to the golden statue, but it was 80% or 90% similar. Plus, Qin Ro's shout was enough to explain everything. "Holy King! Is it really the Holy King? Oh my God!" Everyone was shocked. They knelt on the ground in fear, not daring to move an inch. Thinking of how they dared to offend the Holy King just now, it was simply unforgivable. Cold sweat kept coming out of their forehead. They lowered their heads to the ground, almost prostrating themselves on the ground. The black mass knelt down quietly. They were regretful, but also extremely pious and excited. They had seen the legendary Heavenly Emperor, the ruler of a holy empire. They saw it with their own eyes. Even if they died, it was worth it. Qin Qianqian finally reacted. In fact, the smart Lin Yuma and Wu Dong had already figured it out just now. The three of them were both surprised and happy about Lin Feng's identity. At this moment, Qin Ro's arrival eased the slightly awkward atmosphere. "Master, you're finally back." Qin Ro was overjoyed like a bird returning to its nest. A pair of lively eyes swept across Qin Qianqian and Lin Yuma, secretly amazed by their unbelievable beauty. She bit her lip lightly. "They should be master's wives, right?" "Yes." Lin Feng nodded with a smile and looked at Qin Qianqian and Lin Yuma. "She's my first disciple, Qin Ro." Before he finished speaking, Wu Dong's eyes were already shining. He quickly bowed and cupped his hand. "Greetings, eldest senior sister." However, Qin Ro was shocked. She didn't know how she became the eldest senior sister. "Let's go. We'll talk when we get back." Lin Feng looked at the people around him and nodded slightly. A glint flashed across his eyes. Although he hadn't taken the two girls around enough, he had already caused a stir. It was impossible for him to have a peaceful tour. He believed that the news of his return would spread quickly. Moreover, it was time for him to bring the two girls back to see his mother. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but smile and look at Qin Qianqian and Lin Yuma. The former was still a little confused, while Lin Yuma was already blushing. A family reunion, was there anything more worth being happy about? She was already very happy to see her son return. Lin Wanqing came out of the kitchen. Now that she had recovered, her face was flushed. However, when she saw Lin Yuma and Qin Qianqian, she was slightly stunned. Her gaze fell on their interlocked arms, and a look of surprise flashed across her eyes. "Aren't you going to greet them?" Lin Feng smiled and said to the two girls. "Mother! Mother!" The two girls called out softly, their faces flushed. "Good, good, good." Lin Wanqing nodded repeatedly. She was so happy that she didn't know what to say. Come in and take a seat. We'll be able to eat soon." Looking at her two daughters-in-law, who were as beautiful as fairies, Lin Wanqing couldn't stop smiling. She went into the kitchen happily. "Brother! Big brother!" Lin Yun and Lin Shuer had already returned home to wait after receiving the news. "Wow, the two sisters-in-law are so beautiful." Lin Shuer's eyes lit up. She skipped over and chatted with Lin Yuma and Qin Qianqian. At this time, Qin Ro had already put on the airs of the eldest senior sister and lectured Wu Dong on the rules of entry. In the blink of an eye, only Lin Feng and Lin Yun were left. "Do you have something to tell me?" Lin Feng's eyes flashed. How could he not tell? "Yes, brother." Lin Yun nodded slowly. Chapter 1172. "Brother, I suspect that there's something wrong with the myriad-boned scorpion." Lin Yun's gaze was serious. "Oh!" Lin Feng's eyes flashed. "Why do you say that?" "Actually, I'm only suspecting it. I'm not sure." Lin Yun hesitated for a moment, then said slowly, "In the past 2 years, the number of fights and violent incidents in the Kingdom of Meru has increased year by year. Last year, it increased by 50% compared to the year before, and this year, it's already exceeded last year's by 60%. Lin Feng frowned slightly. Could it be that the use of the Starlight Pill has increased the strength of the martial practitioners in the Kingdom of Meru? That's why there are all kinds of fights. Lin Yun shook his head. At first, I thought so too. That's why when the statistics came out last year, it didn't attract too much attention. But this year, when I was patrolling, I saw a fight with my own eyes. 2 martial practitioners at the apprentice level fought fiercely. It wasn't much at first, but I felt that the violent aura on their bodies was like a pair of invisible hands pushing them, Lin Yun recalled. Lin Feng's eyes flashed. He had also felt this just now. Lin Yun was the same as him. His perception was extremely strong, and he had 2 pupils. His strength was also at the star domain level, which was quite strong. When those people were angry just now, their bodies seemed to surge with energy, making them seem like different people. But it was only energy, and it didn't affect their minds. With Qin Ro's arrival, they quickly regained their calm. I saw it too. Lin Feng nodded slowly. It seems that it wasn't my imagination. Lin Yun smiled, his expression turning serious. After I came back, I started to pay attention to these abnormalities. I looked through the various violent incidents in the past 2 years and studied them carefully. Finally, I found something strange. Lin Feng's eyes lit up. His intuition told him that things weren't that simple. Brother, you also know that the Kingdom of Maru was divided into 12 counties after it was rebuilt. After careful investigation, I finally found out that 2 of the 12 counties have a much higher proportion of violent fights than the other 10 counties. Lin Yun's eyes flashed. It's more than 5 times. So? Lin Feng moved slightly. Excluding these 2 counties, there is no increase in violence in the other 10 counties. In fact, it seems to be decreasing. Lin Yun said slowly, only these 2 counties are so special. There must be a demon behind this abnormality, and I suspect that this demon is the myriad bone scorpion. Because these 2 counties are the closest to the 10,000 bone empire. Lin Yun's gaze shot straight ahead. His suspicions were well-founded and not wild guesses. Lin Feng nodded slowly, affirming his brother Lin Yun's conjecture. He had personally witnessed the abnormalities of those ordinary citizens, and the county city that he had brought the 2 girls to today just so happened to be, it belonged to one of these 2 counties. I understand. I will go and take a look. Lin Feng patted Lin Yun's shoulder and said slowly, before this matter is concluded, don't announce it for the time being. Lin Yun nodded. I understand, brother. Leave this matter to me. Let's go. Let's put these annoying matters to the back of our minds first and happily have a reunion dinner with Mother. Lin Feng smiled freely, but he had already heard the sound of dinner, which warmed his heart. This kind of happiness was very plain, but it was very real and very warm. Amen. Lin Yun immediately stood up and smiled. As long as his brother was here, he felt very at ease and steady. It was a joyous and harmonious meal. Lin Wanqing kept picking up food for Lin Yuma and Qin Qianqian. The 2 girls sat on either side of Lin Wanqing, making Lin Wanqing smile from ear to ear the entire night. Meanwhile, Qin Ling added a bit of liveliness to the family and gave birth to a son, making Lin Yuma and Qin Qianqian's eyes filled with envy. As a woman, who didn't want to have a child of their own, this was the crystallization of love, and the continuation of life. Big brother, you have to work harder. Second brother has already caught up with us. Lin Shuer winked playfully, making Lin Yuma and Qin Qianqian blush instantly. It's okay. It doesn't matter if you catch up with us again. Lin Feng smiled casually. What? Lin Shuer said angrily, her face red with embarrassment. The 3 siblings' relationship had always been like this. Regardless of whether they were poor or rich, nothing would change. This was true kinship. 10,000 Bone Dragon. One of the 4 most dangerous lands. I didn't expect the Kingdom of Maru to have so many secrets. Lin Feng's eyes flickered as he floated in the air. First, there was the 100 waterfalls, then there was the 1,000 snake cave. The Kingdom of Maru had many strange places, and this was only a small island in the boundless sea. One had to know that in the Douling world, just the area of a county was probably larger than the Kingdom of Maru. There are more than secret. There are more disasters and calamities. Lin Feng muttered softly. At this moment, he finally understood why there were so many civilizations before this, but they were all destroyed one by one. Basically, the Kingdom of Maru was like a restless wild beast. Not long after being tamed, it would regain its wild nature and cause a ruckus. From the beginning of the beast tide, to the small celestial dog, to various calamities, It was simply endless. Now, there was the mysterious and strange 10,000 bone dragon. 3 of the 4 most dangerous lands. Looking into the distance, Lin Feng's eyes shone brightly. A gloomy cold wind blew over, and the air here seemed to be filled with the aura of death, decay, and silence. It was a barren border area, and there was a huge cemetery that stretched as far as the eye could see. The stone tablets were crooked, and there was not even a blade of grass growing on the sandy land. Around the huge cemetery there was a strange atmosphere. All kinds of shadows flashed, and there were ear-piercing cries that sounded like vengeful spirits. In the center there was a dark and empty existence. There, it was the real 10,000 bone dragon. There was not a single ghost. There was a legend in the Tianwu continent that anyone who stepped into the boundary of the 10,000 bone dragon would be surrounded by ghosts and directly dragged into the 10,000 bone dragon, thrown into the 18 levels of hell, and never reincarnated. Compared to the 100 waterfalls and the 1,000 snake cave, this was the truly terrifying existence. That day, I did not step into the boundary. But today, I'm afraid I have to go in and take a look. Lin Feng's expression turned serious, and his heart settled. Previously, he did not enter because he was not strong enough. When he came here, he felt a deep pressure and deterrence, as if there was a terrifying existence. But now that he was here again, he did not feel anything special, but his strength was not the same as before. If you don't enter the tiger's den, you won't get the tiger cub. Enter. Lin Feng's eyes burned, and he took a step forward. Stepping into the boundary, the kingdom of Meru was like a child to him, and now that he had deep feelings for it, he would not allow it to be destroyed by any factors. This was not only the hometown where he grew up, but also countless people who trusted him, respected him, and respected him. He was the holy king. Protecting the kingdom of Meru was his responsibility. Boom. The moment he stepped in, the surroundings were dark and silent. Countless ghosts seemed to rush out in an instant, and there seemed to be an invisible barrier at the boundary, sealing everything. And as he stepped in, it was as if he had entered another space, and everything was different, completely changed. Oh. One. There was constant noise in his ears, and illusions kept appearing in front of his eyes, but Lin Feng's eyes were shining brightly. Break for me. With a fierce shout, Lin Feng's expression was calm and composed. He did not even use his own state, but he had already easily broken these so-called illusions. There was no burden. If it was his previous eyes, he would probably need to use his own state to resist, but now there was no need at all. Step by step, he carefully stepped forward. Lin Feng's eyes flashed, and all kinds of ghost-like voices kept appearing in his ears, like the screams and howls of ghosts, as if they were being tortured. But it did not affect his temperament. Since he was young, he had been tested by all kinds of illusions, and now his will was even more firm. Whether it was his spirit or his body, he was top-notch in resisting illusions. However, he had only just stepped into the border. The 10,000 bone centipede is even more terrifying than I imagined. Lin Feng frowned and his heart jumped. At this time, he inexplicably thought of another dangerous place, the Rashomon Purgatory. At that time, he could not even get close to the boundary, and it felt so terrifying. If it was like the 10,000 bone centipede, and there were 2 heavens inside and outside the boundary, there was an invisible barrier, then wouldn't that be unimaginable? Lin Feng let out a deep breath and calmed his mind. Now was not the time to think about this. No matter how terrifying the Rashomon Purgatory was, at least it seemed to be sleeping. But the 10,000 bone centipede was like a lion opening its eyes. He kept getting closer. It's here. Lin Feng thought, and his expression changed. The closer he got to the huge cemetery, the more he felt fear spread, as if a heart demon was causing trouble. The stone tablets were crooked and blurred in front of his eyes, and in the center of the huge cemetery, There was a bottomless black forest that seemed to contain a devil. His head, a little dizzy, Lin Feng fiercely bit the tip of his tongue. Blood flowed, and Lin Feng's eyes instantly brightened. Self-state. Whoosh! In an instant all the illusions flashed by. The crooked stone tablet in front of him instantly returned to normal, and the blurry words seemed to become clear. Lin Feng calmly landed on the ground, and did not go any further. His hands unconsciously clenched, and he felt his heart palpitate again and again. That terrifying feeling just now was imprinted in his heart. It was very dangerous. His mind had almost been affected by it. Standing outside the huge cemetery, Lin Feng's expression kept changing. The 10,000-bone centipede is not simple. Biting his lips, Lin Feng's expression was slightly ugly. Although he could completely block these illusions in his current state, it had to be known that he had yet to enter the real myriad-bone abyss, and had not even stepped into the huge cemetery. He had only been wandering around the periphery of the cemetery. It had such terrifying power. How much danger would there be if he went further in? It was unimaginable. Hesitant, Lin Feng's eyes sparkled. Right at this moment, a voice suddenly sounded out from behind him. The main line is slowly revealed. Chapter 1173. You can't get in. A familiar voice entered his ears. Lin Feng was startled, cold sweat dripping from his forehead. Very dangerous. It was so close, but he didn't sense anyone approaching. It wasn't because the other party was strong, but because he had focused all his attention on the huge graveyard. In this gloomy, myriad-bone ruin, he was caught in an illusion and neglected many things. Feeling the familiar aura, Lin Feng turned his head, and the dignified expression on his face turned into a faint smile. Why are you here? It was a woman blooming like a lotus flower. She stood there indifferently, and her flawless face was breathtakingly beautiful. It was Shui Yume. Who told you to be so restless? Shui Yume frowned and wrinkled her nose. Compared to the coldness they had when they first met, Shui Yume and Lin Feng were now like ordinary friends. Restless? Lin Feng was startled. You mean the myriad-bone ruin? Lin Feng's eyes flickered, and he instantly reacted. Recalling Shui Yume's words and the timing of her appearance, a big question mark appeared in his heart. Shui Yume's beautiful eyes glanced at the gloomy and terrifying aura. She nodded gently. Master was afraid that you would accidentally trigger the restriction and attack the seal in a fit of anger, causing trouble. Therefore, he asked me to come and stop you, lest you suffer an unexpected disaster. As expected, Lin Feng's eyes flashed. As he had guessed, Tianji Lauren seemed to be very familiar with this myriad-bone ruin. Senior, what else did you say? Lin Feng asked. Shui Yume shook her head gently. Just as Lin Feng was feeling slightly disappointed, Shui Yume spoke again. Master wants to see you. Water Curtain Cave. It was vast and boundless, and there were all kinds of coral and jade sculptures. In this palace carved from jade, it gave people a mysterious and lively feeling. No matter when they entered, it would feel fresh and natural. Lin Feng followed Shui Yume into the palace once again, and arrived in front of the crystal wall. It reflected all kinds of light, creating a colorful illusion. Master is waiting for you inside, Shui Yume said softly. All right. Lin Feng nodded slowly. In an instant, chi. The surrounding light rays rapidly penetrated his body. Lin Feng felt his body being bound once more. The light in front of him was extremely resplendent, and the water in front of him rippled, faintly reflecting the Elder of Heavenly Secrets' blurry face. That pair of resplendent eyes radiated light in all directions. Lin Feng's eyes instantly lit up as he activated his own state. Pung! It was as if the energy had touched each other, causing the space to tremble. In an instant, Lin Feng moved, and the surrounding environment changed. Little friend, you didn't disappoint me after we parted that day. A leisurely voice rang out. Lin Feng raised his head and looked forward. Rays of white light converged, forming the appearance of the Elder of Heavenly Secrets. His head of white hair appeared so pale and powerless. His face carried a benevolent smile, but his withered face was like a dying tree. He was extremely emaciated and his life aura was weak. "Greetings, Senior." Lin Feng cupped his hands and said respectfully. The old man in front of him was one of the few people he respected the most. He had reminded him several times and saved him several times. It could be said that without him, he wouldn't be who he was now. "No need to be so polite." The Elder of Heavenly Secrets raised his hand and made a "please" gesture. "Sit." "Sit?" Lin Feng's eyes lit up. He nodded and sat down. He didn't exchange any pleasantries because he knew that this was a form of recognition from the Elder of Heavenly Secrets. "May I know why Senior is looking for me this time?" Lin Feng looked at the Elder of Heavenly Secrets and asked bluntly. "Aren't you the one who wants to find me?" The Elder of Heavenly Secrets replied ambiguously. He smiled and said, "I know you have a lot of questions. Ask away." Lin Feng nodded. Indeed, he had a lot of questions that he wanted answers to. Others might not be able to give him an accurate answer, but the omniscient Elder of Heavenly Secrets would definitely know. "Senior, I want to know what the myriad bone puppet is." Lin Feng's eyes were like torches. "What is the seal that you may mentioned? And why did Senior stop me?" The Elder of Heavenly Secrets pondered for a while. His dim eyes flashed, but he didn't answer the question. "Do you know why I am here?" Lin Feng hesitated. "Senior was seriously injured in the second war of the liches and demons. Therefore, you are living in seclusion here." The Elder of Heavenly Secrets smiled. "Do you remember what you saw when you entered the sacred land? 100 waterfalls?" Lin Feng was slightly startled. His eyes flashed. Scenes of the past appeared in his mind. He had entered the 100 waterfalls several times and saw the image of the Elder of Heavenly Secrets. It was controlled by him. Wait. Lin Feng was slightly startled. If the Elder of Heavenly Secrets was seriously injured, why was he so strong in the 100 waterfalls? He raised his head and looked at that weak appearance. It was so real. "Actually, I have an independent doppelganger like you." The Elder of Heavenly Secrets' eyes were like torches as he said indifferently. "What?" Lin Feng's expression changed slightly. It was just a short sentence, but it made him completely understand. "But unlike you, my independent doppelganger is not strong," the Elder of Heavenly Secrets said slowly. His eyes flashed. "But its foundation is there. Even if its aptitude is ordinary, after a long time of tempering, my doppelganger's strength has reached the Saint King realm. It can be said that it is even stronger than my original body." Lin Feng nodded and listened carefully. He understood that the controller of the 100 waterfalls was the Elder of Heavenly Secrets' doppelganger. "But the water curtain cave was passed down to me by my late master. He also gave me a great mission and responsibility." The Elder of Heavenly Secrets looked at Lin Feng. His expression was calm, but his words were extremely shocking. "Suppress the 10,000 bone scorpion for eternity." Pung! Lin Feng's head shook and his expression changed. He didn't expect the water curtain cave's existence to involve the 10,000 bone scorpion in such a way. "Of course, with my strength, I can't do it." The Elder of Heavenly Secrets smiled and said, "Even 10 or 100 of me can't suppress those old bastards in the 10,000 bone scorpion. Even if my late master's strength far surpassed mine, he would still need to borrow the power of the 100 waterfalls." "The 100 waterfalls?" Lin Feng was surprised. As if he had seen through Lin Feng's confusion, Tianji Lauren explained, "In fact, 100 waterfalls is an innate treasure created by the creation of heaven and earth. It can be used to cultivate and refine treasures. However, these functions are only useful to warriors below the martial saint level. For real masters, it has little effect. Its real ability is indiscriminate sealing. Simply put, you can think of the 10,000-bone scorpion as a prison, and the 100 waterfalls as the gate to the prison, the Elder of Heavenly Secrets said indifferently. Extremely shocking. Lin Feng felt his mouth go dry and his heart beat faster. This was completely beyond his imagination. So the 100 waterfalls is... Lin Feng looked at the Elder of Heavenly Secrets in shock. Heaven rank and a very rare heaven rank gold treasure, the Elder of Heavenly Secrets replied. Heaven rank. It really was a legendary heaven rank Khanate treasure. Lin Feng's expression changed, his chest heaving. To him, this information was simply too shocking. Dare I ask, Senior, aren't Khanate treasures only red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, purple, white and black, a total of 9 colors? Where does gold come from? Lin Feng was extremely curious, because he had once obtained 2 gold treasures, both of which had heaven-defying functions. Gold, also known as the 10th color, refers to special treasures, the Elder of Heavenly Secrets replied. Elder Tianji replied, oftentimes, these types of innate treasures have extremely special functions. If used well, they can even surpass the highest grade of innate treasures. However, under normal circumstances, they are only at an average standard. So that's how it was. Lin Feng nodded. His knowledge had been broadened once more. In other words, this seal was the special function of the 100 waterfalls. According to the Elder of Heavenly Secrets, the thing that sealed the 10,000-bone scorpion was no ordinary existence. Curious, Lin Feng's eyes shone. Dare I ask, Senior, those old bastards in the 10,000-bone scorpion are Saint King Realm experts. The Elder of Heavenly Secrets said indifferently. As for their identity, you don't need to know now, and even if you do know, it's useless to you. You just need to remember, don't touch these seals. Once these old bastards are released, the consequences will be unimaginable. Lin Feng nodded slowly. There was no need to doubt the Elder of Heavenly Secrets' words. Moreover, they were all Saint King Realm existences, and after such a long time, they had probably become spirits long ago. Lin Feng secretly wiped his sweat. If he had really fearlessly barged in, he would have been eaten like a snack. This 10,000-bone scorpion was truly terrifying. But, Junior still has a question. Lin Feng's eyes turned cold, and he said seriously, currently, many people in the Kingdom of Maru are affected by the 10,000-bone scorpion. A strange power seems to have entered their bodies, making them brave and ruthless, and their personalities have become quite violent. Is there such a thing? The Elder of Heavenly Secrets was slightly suspicious. Yes, I've already investigated it, and it should be close to the truth. Lin Feng's expression was solemn. If this matter was not resolved, the Kingdom of Maru would be in trouble. After pondering for a while, the Elder of Heavenly Secrets nodded and said, it might be because the seals have been loosened. In these few years, the demon race has been restless and eager to make a move. The third war of liches and demons is not far away. In addition, the demon race held a commander competition a while ago. The battle between Saint King Realm existences might have affected the Kingdom of Maru and triggered the 10,000-bone scorpion. I see. Lin Feng nodded. This change in the Kingdom of Maru was indeed a change that only happened in these few years. Perhaps it was just as the Elder of Heavenly Secrets said. Fortunately, there was nothing major at the moment, just a little warlike factor. It was not a big deal. Compared to the third war of liches and demons that was about to start, that was a really big deal, and it concerned the entire Douling world. Senior, last time, you mentioned that the third war of liches and demons would start because of me. Lin Feng was slightly hesitant. Is this true? You don't believe me? The Elder of Heavenly Secrets smiled faintly. It's not that I don't believe you. Lin Feng smiled bitterly. It's just that I'm just a nameless junior. How could I be involved in such a huge calamity, and even be the instigator? It was hard to believe. No matter how he thought about it, he had not done anything. In fact, he had been wandering around the human territory, and seemed to have nothing to do with the wizard race and demon race. It doesn't matter if it's true or not. The Elder of Heavenly Secrets looked at Lin Feng. I just want to ask you, are you willing to protect the human race? Chapter 1174. Lin Feng's eyes lit up. He knew what the Elder of Heavenly Secrets meant. He had vaguely mentioned it the last time they met. He was an Emperor constellation. A general success was built on thousands of bones. With an Emperor constellation, your life is destined to be extraordinary. Calamities will be everywhere. If you survive, your achievements will be extraordinary. But if you die, you will not be able to escape. There can only be one Emperor constellation. These words were still deeply engraved in his mind. According to the Elder of Heavenly Secrets, he would decide the life and death of the human race. I will do my best. Lin Feng's eyes were bright. Perhaps his strength was so insignificant in this calamity and war, but he also wanted to take responsibility. Because he was a human born in the Vermilion Bird continent. On that continent there were clansmen who had the same blood as him, warriors who had the same skin color as him. Standing on the side of righteousness and fighting alongside the human race was a heavy responsibility that he could not shirk. And in terms of love, Yuma and Qianqian were his true loves. The 9 provinces was also their homeland, including Shizhishin, Jinji, Lady Nangong. On this continent, he had many friends, husband and wife, brothers, and even many favors. Disregarding everything else, just the Elder of Heavenly Secrets in front of him was already something that he owed him far too much. As long as the Elder of Heavenly Secrets opened his mouth, he would not say no. Moreover, once the human clan was exterminated, the sorcerer clan and the ancient clan would feel the cold together, and they would be put in a passive position. Once the battle between the sorcerer clan and the demon clan ended and the demon clan won a great victory, one could imagine that the sorcerer clan would really destroy the human clan and eliminate the weeds at their root. The kingdom of Meru would also not be spared. Good. The Elder of Heavenly Secrets' eyes were burning. I did not misjudge you. As an emperor, you must have the domineering aura to look down on the world. If you shrink back, the heart of an emperor will dim. What awaits you will be endless calamities and disasters. Only by cutting through the thorns and opening a bloody path, opening the sealed door of the heavenly path, will you truly have a way out. His words were spoken. When it fell into Lin Feng's ears, it lingered for 3 feet. Every word of the Elder of Heavenly Secrets was priceless advice and had a deep meaning. Senior, please lead the way. Lin Feng cupped his hands and said seriously. To find someone. Elder Tianji's dim eyes flashed with light. In this unpredictable war, you need a helper, and he will be your most reliable left hand in the future. Lin Feng's eyes brightened. Who? The Elder of Heavenly Secrets' white hair fluttered as his voice slowly resounded. Emperor of the human race, Shun. Nanlu State. Second senior brother, King Ju is participating, King Han said seriously. Is that so? As expected, you are unwilling to be left out. King Lu smiled valiantly. Do you want to snipe? King Han's eyes shone. No need. King Lu raised his hand and said lightly, Fourth junior brother has a calm personality. He has his own reasons for choosing this time to participate. Furthermore, he has always been neutral, so there is no need to provoke him. Furthermore, King Lu glanced at King Han and King Brown and shook his head. Other than me, the 2 of you are no match for him. King Han frowned slightly. I'm just afraid that he will side with King Yin. After all, King Ju is very respectful towards eldest senior brother Shun. Don't worry, our enemy is not King Ju. King Lu's eyes flashed with a hint of calmness. This War of the Throne is not as simple as controlling the southern region. Even if the cultivators who enter the final battle are unable to ascend to the throne, they will still have the right to speak. Having another King Ju is not a bad thing. There is news that the Tsai society has been getting restless recently. King Han and King Brown's expressions changed. Zhuo is about to take action? Should be. King Lu's expression was serious. However, he is the leader of the 8-region alliance after all. It is impossible for him to participate in the competition. The Tsai society alone is not much of a threat. After all, they are not as powerful as King Yen. What I am most concerned about is another force. King Han and King Brown exchanged glances. The latter hesitated and said, "The legendary bandit Cuckoo?" King Lu shook his head. "He has disappeared for a long time. What I am concerned about is a powerful aura. I can vaguely feel it, but it seems to be there. I am not sure." King Lu's eyes flashed. If this force participates in the competition, the southern region will be thrown into chaos. In a luxurious restaurant. "Master, when do you plan to take action?" Lam Tok Ti's eyes were burning. "What's the hurry? It's still early." The Holy Lord of Human Demon chuckled. He was clearly in a good mood. He picked up his wine cup and drained it in one gulp. He hugged the beautiful woman in his arms and played with her soft breasts. He looked pleased with himself. "I'm afraid there will be too many variables." Lam Tok Ti frowned slightly. The Holy Lord of Human Demon's mouth twitched. "It would be stupid to expose my strength too early. After all, my identity is sensitive. If I expose myself too early, I might be boycotted by them. That would be troublesome. With these cowards in the southern region, who can stop me in the competition for the throne? What I want now is a name. A chance to prove myself." The Holy Lord of Human Demon wrinkled his nose in disdain. With his strength, was it difficult for him to rule the southern region? In an era without a Holy Lord, he was already alone. It was difficult for him to find a match in the human region. All he wanted was a chance to prove himself. Otherwise, what was the point of having an empty shell? "But Master..." Lam Tok Ti's expression changed slightly. "Enough. Stop talking nonsense." The Holy Lord of Human Demon waved his hand and coldly interrupted. "I know you're worried about that brat Lin Feng. What's there to worry about? No matter how mighty he is in the Yellow Crane continent, I can crush him like an ant. Let's talk about this after I truly take control of the southern region. For now, I'll let him live a little longer." Lam Tok Ti still wanted to persuade him, but the Holy Lord of Human Demon frowned and coldly snorted. Lam Tok Ti's expression changed slightly. He felt helpless, but there was nothing he could do. The Kingdom of Maru. After returning from the Water Curtain Cave, Lin Feng felt the pressure on his shoulders. Before, he had only fought to protect his family. But now, he had to shoulder the fate of the entire human race. How big of a change was this? However, he had no choice but to go with the flow. Although the road ahead was long and filled with difficulties, but, if there's danger, there'll be opportunities. Lin Feng's eyes sparkled. Senior wouldn't lie to me. What he said must be true. Pursing his lips, Lin Feng couldn't help but recall the Elder of Heavenly Secrets' final words, and his heart surged. "You get what you pay for. The heavens are fair. As long as you pay the price, the heavens can see what you want." Lin Feng let out a soft breath. The Elder of Heavenly Secrets had not said it explicitly, but just like when they first met, the hint was very clear. What did he want? In truth, it was very simple. He wanted his family to be reunited and be happy. Back then, he had resolutely stepped onto this path for the sake of home. Now, he had crossed many mountains and rivers, but the obsession in his heart had not changed. What he wanted the most right now was still the existence of home. He wanted to save his father and find Xiao. There was also Duo, who had gone into hibernation to help him. This was his responsibility. "Big brother, how is it?" Lin Yun's eyes were filled with hope. Coming back to his senses, Lin Feng looked at Lin Yun. After some slight hesitation, he still did not speak of the secret of the 10,000 bone empire. It was not that he did not want to tell his younger brother, but there was no need to make him worry. With his younger brother's strength, coming into contact with this kind of information would only cause unnecessary worry. I can't go in. Lin Yun stilled, his expression turning grave. We must seal off the entire range of the 10,000 bone empire. That place is very dangerous. We must not step into the border. Lin Feng's expression was serious. According to his estimates, other than himself, any other martial artist in the kingdom of Meru, including his younger brother, would find it difficult to resist that terrifying illusion if they stepped into the 10,000 bone empire. Big brother, is there no way this time? Lin Yun's face was filled with worry. For now, no. Lin Feng nodded. Seeing Lin Yun's worried expression, he couldn't help but smile and pat his shoulder. But the situation is not as bad as you think. Based on my investigation of the 10,000 bone empire, this is only an isolated incident. There is no need to worry too much. An isolated incident? Lin Yun sneered. Yes, it has to do with the movements of the surrounding Yao rays. It should improve after a while. Lin Feng nodded and said, but for safety reasons, it would be better to first evacuate the 2 counties near the 10,000 bone empire and let the people move. It will be better. All right, then I will arrange it, big brother. Lin Yun nodded and did not say more. He had always listened to Lin Feng's words. Lin Feng made a sound of agreement and said with a smile, don't worry, with me here, nothing will happen to the kingdom of Meru. Of course, big brother, you are the guardian of the kingdom of Meru. People worship you like a god. Lin Yun smiled and continued, every household has a statue of you, big brother. They pray from 9 to 5 and pray for blessings. I'm even wondering if I should have a statue of you at home. Lin Feng was so angry that he laughed. You even dare to laugh at your big brother. Go. Lin Yun smiled as he ran away. Their laughter instantly eased the atmosphere, making it seem joyous and harmonious. Life in the kingdom of Meru was peaceful and warm. It was very happy. However, this kind of happiness was not inevitable. It needed to be protected with absolute strength. After spending a few warm days with his family, Lin Feng knew that it was time to leave, although he was very reluctant. Linda Go, be careful. Qin Wanru was very reluctant to part with him and reminded him with concern. Don't worry, I will. Lin Feng hugged his wife gently and felt the love of the beauty in his arms. He looked at Wu Dong. Take good care of master's wife, understand? Yes, master. Wu Dong said respectfully. All right, don't be reluctant. It's not the first time. Lin Feng smiled at Lin Shuer. Humph, I'm not bringing Shuer. Lin Shuer pouted. Next time, wait for big brother to come back. Lin Feng smiled and caressed her little head. Although she had grown up to be slender and elegant, Shuer was still that little girl with a braid in his heart. Now that the southern region was in turmoil, it was not appropriate to bring Shuer there. Moreover, he was about to set off to the wilderness to search for the ancient Feng clan. He would not be able to take care of her. Pinky promise. Lin Shuer stretched out her little finger. Lin Feng smiled helplessly but could only go with Shuer. Everyone laughed. Soon, they finished saying their goodbyes. Except for Yuma, everyone else would stay in the kingdom of Meru. Under everyone's reluctant gazes, Lin Feng smiled and waved his hand. He entered the transmission channel and left with a flash of light. The short and relaxing days were over. What was left? It was the beginning of the challenge. Today is Xiao Xiao's birthday. Happy birthday to yourself, ha. Chapter 1175. He returned to the Lin clan in Shirluo County. After a few days of work, the relocation of the Qin clan was almost complete. One had to admit that the clan leader, Lin Zhen, was very efficient. The Qin Chamber of Commerce quickly took root in the Qianluo district. The current Lin clan was not only rich but also powerful. The strongest force in the Qianluo district, the Wu clan, had been suppressed by the Lin clan and had nowhere to go. The former top three in the Qianluo district, the Evil Dragon Gang and the Verdant Cloud Brothel, had long disappeared. With the rise of Lin Feng, he had attracted many independent warriors. The current Lin clan could be said to have officially entered the ranks of the strongest clans in Shirluo County. They were strong enough to compete with those giants. In fact, no one would be so ignorant as to provoke the Lin clan. Who didn't know of Lin Feng's fame? In terms of power, he was the vice president of the Union of Artificers. In terms of strength, he had killed 3 experts of the ancient clans. In Shirluo County, even the governor, Wang Mo, had to be respectful to Lin Feng, let alone ordinary warriors. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that the Lin clan was now the strongest force in Shirluo County. When a man achieves the Tao, even his chickens and dogs rise to the heavens. Okay, then I'll have to trouble the governor to take care of me, Lin Feng said with a smile. You're welcome. It's nothing. Wang Mo bowed and flattered. Lin Feng smiled and nodded. Then, he left with Yuma. With Wang Mo watching over the Lin clan and the Qin Chamber of Commerce, there wouldn't be any major problems. In Shirluo County, Wang Mo's position was equivalent to that of a leader. He was in charge of all affairs. As for the saint behind him, Shakala, he only controlled the general direction and wouldn't interfere too much. Although Wang Mo was a despicable person, he was truly a despicable person. There was one good thing about this kind of person. As long as you were stronger than him, he would be loyal to you and would not be disloyal. He was very smart. After settling the family affairs, Lin Feng went to the Union of Artificers. Firstly, Yuma would not follow him into the wilderness. Instead, he would stay here to cultivate and refine weapons with Lady Nangong. Secondly, he needed Lady Nangong's help. As the president of the Union of Artificers, Lady Nangong had great power and connections. You want to find Emperor Shun? Lady Nangong sneered. Yes, where can I find it? Lin Feng asked. Lady Nangong gently shook her head. I can help you with other things, but there is nothing I can do to find Emperor Shun. Lady Nangong frowned and mumbled. If King Yen is here, I can help you inform him, but King Yen is currently in Peach Blossom. Peach Blossom? Lin Feng was surprised. Madame Nangong nodded and said, Emperor Yao's cultivation place is only accessible to his disciples and grand disciples. Lin Feng's eyes brightened. Is Emperor Shun there? Probably. Lady Nangong said softly, Emperor Shun is the replacement for Emperor Yao. Even if he abdicates, he should still be in Peach Blossom. Lin Feng nodded. How can I go there? I don't know. Lady Nangong shook her head. Lin Feng frowned. He had to meet Emperor Shun. This was the first thing that Elder Heavenly Secrets had asked him to do. Now that he had taken on this responsibility, the heavy responsibility of protecting the human race, he had to answer Elder Heavenly Secrets' words. He had to do his best. Right. Lady Nangong might not know, but Emperor Yao's disciples and grand disciples should know. Lin Feng's eyes brightened. President, do you know who Emperor Yao's disciples are? Can you find them now? Lady Nangong hesitated. I don't know much about the relationship network in the world of saints. I only know that the kings of the 9 states of the southern region are all Emperor Yao's disciples. I don't know anything else. Kings of the 9 states? Lin Feng's eyes brightened. He smiled. Thank you, President. Goodbye. With that, he disappeared like a gust of wind, causing Madame Nangong to feel rather helpless. Kings of the 9 states. King Yen was one of them. There were also 8 other kings of the 9 states. Lin Feng's eyes brightened. King Lu's figure appeared in his mind. Relatively speaking, he was slightly more familiar with King Lu. whoosh. With a flash, he quickly entered the teleportation point of the Union of Artificers. He skillfully operated it. With a flash of white light, he left South Lu State. With Lin Feng's current strength, it was not difficult to find a person, especially a saint. Even though South Lu State was vast and had abundant resources, and was the largest state in the Vermilion Bird continent, as long as he could find any saint, he would be able to find King Lu. It was that simple. The moment Lin Feng exited the teleportation point, he found the first saint. I didn't expect it to be so easy. Lin Feng smiled. His eyes lit up as he sped away. Even though he was far away, he could sense it clearly. As he sped, Lin Feng's aura locked onto that saint. However, his eyes brightened. Lin Feng was surprised. There's more than one. The saint whose aura locked onto first was the strongest. Naturally, he could sense it clearly. The other saints he sensed later were slightly weaker, but there were many of them. Lin Feng muttered to himself. He could not help but laugh. It was effortless. That's good. The more people there are, the easier it will be to find King Lu. Lin Feng smiled. He did not mind at all. To him, these saints, whom he could only look up to before, and ordinary martial artists now, there was no difference. Hidden in the city, the Tsai Society's influence spread throughout the entire South region. It was the strongest underground force in the South region. It had branches in all 9 states. For example, the Tsai Society in the Yellow Crane State, the White Society in the Vermilion Bird State, and so on. In fact, the Tsai Society did not only exist in the South region. It existed in all the major regions of the human world. It was so strong that even though King Lu knew of its existence, he still turned a blind eye. Even when Emperor Yao was around, he did not intend to eradicate the Tsai Society. At this moment, the 9 saints of the Tsai Society were gathered together for a regular meeting. However, as the president of the South region, Yu Fan frowned slightly. He felt a chill down his spine. He did not know what was wrong. President! President! A few saints called out softly. What is it? Yu Fan regained his senses and asked. Are you okay, President? I'm fine. Yu Fan waved his hand and said, Continue. Yes. Yu Fan's expression was ugly. He still felt uncomfortable all over. It felt as if someone was spying on him in the dark. It was extremely uncomfortable. Even his eyelids could not help but twitch. He was very upset. Oh? Lin Feng stopped. He looked at the ordinary castle-shaped stone house in front of him. It was not big, and the structure was not surprising. It looked ordinary no matter how he looked at it. However, there were a total of 10 saints' auras in this stone house. They were all early stage, mid-stage, and even one of them was an advanced stage saint. They were actually hiding in this inconspicuous stone house? Underground. Lin Feng's eyes shone brightly. He could clearly sense it. The people in the stone house were ordinary martial artists. Their strength was in the Star Sea or Star Lord level. There were very few Star Sector level martial artists. However, there were countless powerful martial artists gathered under the stone house. Even the weakest of them had the strength of a Star Sector level. The most powerful ones were the 10 saints. He could sense more than 10,000 auras. It was a very strong force. It's so mysterious. It doesn't seem like it can be seen, Lin Feng said softly. There was no need to be so secretive in a normal gathering of saints. He looked around. This was the entrance of a busy street. That's interesting. Lin Feng smiled thoughtfully. He stepped forward and entered the stone house. Jewelry shop. Lin Feng looked around. There were many customers choosing jewelry. Compared to other buildings, this stone house was not big. However, it was still quite luxurious if it was limited to the jewelry shop. There was 1 floor inside, 1 floor outside, 1 floor above, 1 floor below. This jewelry shop was obviously just a cover. It sold goods to the outside, but inside it was a staircase. There were a few expressionless guards guarding the underground entrance. It seemed that there were some special conditions to enter. Who cares? Lin Feng looked indifferent. He walked casually, not caring at all. He walked directly to the underground entrance. He did not have the time to waste with them. Stop! The guard was expressionless, but there was a murderous intent in his eyes. Up the road. Lin Feng was slightly stunned. This murderous intent was obviously not something an ordinary martial artist could have. But he was just a guard? Go away. Lin Feng said indifferently and waved his hand. In an instant, the force swept past like sand and stones. Those guards groaned and were directly bounced away. Dozens of people seemed to be blown away by a gust of wind. They all fainted in an instant. The sudden change in the situation made the customers who were choosing jewelry dumbfounded. However, Lin Feng completely ignored them. He had already held back. Otherwise, they would not have simply fainted. Whoosh! His figure flashed and entered the underground passage. Bang! 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 He walked forward. The heavily locked doors were smashed. One by one, the murderous martial artists were knocked unconscious. Lin Feng was like a gust of wind. Nothing could stop him. But how mysterious! A mere passage is heavily guarded. There are as many as 4 or 5 doors. The defense is so cautious. Moreover, every martial artist here has such a strong murderous intent. Lin Feng thought to himself. He did not stop at all. He seemed to understand something in his heart. He broke through and the dark passage in front of him flashed with light. Boom! The flame in Lin Feng's hand flared up. After the last door was smashed open, everything in front of him suddenly became clear. A huge jade palace appeared in front of him. At this time, countless martial artists were already waiting solemnly. Shocking murderous intent was boiling and spread throughout the entire hall. It was suffocating. However, there was no sound. It was unusually quiet. Lin Feng's eyes lit up. He slowly stepped out of the door. Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, purple, white, and black. There were a total of 9 colors. They formed the veins of the entire hall. They were clearly visible. And the 10 saints' auras that he had sensed were in the palace. Among them, the most eye-catching one was a man. He was wearing a striped uniform formed by 9 colors. He was extremely special. His aura was the strongest among the 10 saints. Advanced Saint. Which friend has graced my colorful clothes club with your presence? Yu Fan's eyes shone brightly. Chapter 1176. Sai Society? A bright light flashed across Lin Feng's eyes. Looking at the murderous palace, all the cultivators seemed to be demons that had returned from hell. They were emotionless. Lin Feng's heart stirred. He then said, "I'm looking for the White Clothes Society." Yu Fan's expression changed slightly, and the other man in white behind him also revealed a surprised expression. However, he concealed it extremely well, and he quickly recovered his deathly silent expression. There wasn't the slightest fluctuation of emotion on his face. However, it was his most direct reaction at this instant that was sufficient to explain everything. Lin Feng completely understood. Thinking about it, the White Clothes Society should be a branch of the Tsai Society. Everything that happened in the Land of Divine Remains was still clearly in his mind. Although the White Clothes Society failed to assassinate him, it did not mean that he had forgotten about it. It was just that he did not take it to heart. Compared to the hatred of the ancient race, the hatred of the White Clothes Society was negligible. It was like being stared at by a mosquito. However, now that he had come here by accident, it was really fate. "What do you want?" "Just say it," said Yu Fan. Although he did not answer, he acknowledged the existence of the White Clothes Society. In fact, he had no choice but to acknowledge it. As he spoke, he tested Lin Feng's reaction. Yu Fan was unfamiliar with this young man who had appeared out of nowhere. He was also fearful. He could not sense Lin Feng's strength at all. Empty and empty. They stood face to face, but it was as if they were on two different planes. Very strong. Nothing. Lin Feng said indifferently, "It's just that I have some personal grudges with the White Clothes Society. I think it's time to settle them." Lin Feng smiled. However, there was a hint of recklessness and insolence in his smile. His eyes swept across the tens of thousands of experts, completely ignoring them. Even though he was surrounded by enemies, he still stood proudly like a god of war. There was no need to beat around the bush. Directly, just kill. Boom! Flames lit up the entire palace. Southern Lu Supreme Residence. King Lu, something happened. King Han hurried over, his eyes flashing. Oh! King Lu was slightly taken aback. He put down the teacup in his hand. Looking deeply at King Lu, King Han's chest heaved up and down. His aquiline nose twitched. Sai will be attacked. Lu Wang was stunned for a moment, but then he smiled. Which idiot dares to take revenge on Kai E Society? He didn't care. King Lu was already used to this kind of thing. Kai E Society was an assassin organization and had offended a lot of people. The number of people who came to seek revenge was like the number of hairs on a cow. However, Sai Society still stood strong. It had the strength and capital to do so. No, King Lu, Sai Society. This time, they were wiped out by someone. King Han's voice was trembling. King Lu frowned slightly. Yu Fan isn't here? Yes, but he should be dead. King Han's voice was hoarse. He wasn't the only one there. Coincidentally, during a regular meeting, all the experts of the 9 branches were present. More than 10,000 experts gathered together to discuss the details of the war for the throne and prepare to take action. Who would have thought? They're all dead. Han Wang shook his head. It can't be? King Lu was truly shocked this time. He didn't say anything for a long time. After a while, he asked, "Who did it?" "I don't know." King Han pursed his lips. "I don't know what that person's intention is. To us, is he an enemy or a friend? He chose to come at this time. Clearly, he came prepared. Coincidentally, it happened during the war for the throne. This matter is intriguing. Not only that." King Lu's expression was dark. He completely disregarded Kai E Society. This kind of behavior was no longer as simple as provoking Kai E Society. It was completely disregarding Kai E Society and declaring war on them. Who was it that had such strength and courage? "What should we do, King Lu?" King Han's expression was extremely grave. After a while, King Lu shook his head and said, "There's no need to panic. Since this matter has nothing to do with us, we can let it go. Moreover, based on the current situation, the destruction of Kai E Society in the southern region might not be a bad thing for us. At least, we will have one less opponent and one less crisis." King Han softly grunted and nodded thoughtfully. The atmosphere was slightly heavy. At this moment, whoosh! In the distance, a black figure rushed over and knelt on one knee outside the door. "King Lu, someone wishes to see you." "Who?" King Lu was slightly startled. "He says his name is Lin Feng," the black-clothed cultivator reported. "Haha, what brings little brother Lin Feng here?" King Lu laughed loudly as he walked forward to welcome Lin Feng. His voice was loud and clear. This was not a pretense. Instead, it was a sincere greeting. It had only been a few days, but Lin Feng had come to visit. To King Lu, who had always wanted to win over Lin Feng, this was undoubtedly great news. King Han accompanied Lin Feng with a sincere smile. Perhaps King Brown had been severely injured by Lin Feng, but that did not matter. If they could get an expert at Lin Feng's level to join their side, there would only be benefits and no disadvantages. "Naturally, I wouldn't visit you without a reason." Lin Feng smiled faintly. He went straight to the point and did not beat around the bush. Lin Feng's aura was vigorous. He had just gone through a cruel battle. His eyes were bright. At this moment, Every part of his body was like an unsheathed spear, revealing its sharpness. The dense killing intent combined with the blood-colored aura wrapped around his body like a layer of membrane. It was extremely horrifying. Hiss! King Lu and King Han's expressions changed slightly as they took a deep breath. Looking at Lin Feng before them, it was as if they were looking at a demon who had just returned from the Azura battlefield. The horrifying killing intent made them feel suffocated. Brother Lin, little brother Lin Feng, you. King Lu's face was filled with shock. Lin Feng was slightly surprised. However, he also realized his current situation. His tense nerves instantly relaxed as he smiled casually. Sorry, I just fought. Had a fight? King Lu and King Han's faces twitched slightly. How could he be covered in blood from a fight? What a joke. Wait a minute. Their expressions changed abruptly. King Lu looked at Lin Feng and said in shock, Brother Lin, little brother Lin Feng, don't tell me you brought people to wipe out the Tsai society? Brought people? Lin Feng was slightly startled. He smiled and said, No, it was just me. His voice was calm, but it made King Lu and King Han's hearts almost stop. Did they hear wrongly? One person wiped out the Tsai society, which had tens of thousands of experts? Was this for real? I have some conflicts with the White Shirt Society. Lin Feng nodded slightly and smiled faintly. Coincidentally, we bumped into each other. Let's settle the previous scores. A faint light flashed across his eyes. Thinking about the battle just now, Lin Feng felt comfortable all over. It had been a long time since he had such an enjoyable battle. He had killed to the fullest. Satisfying. Most importantly, they were all assassins. Every one of them had blood on their hands. Even if they did not do it for themselves, they did it for the people. As saints, they actually did such a thing. They deserved to be killed. Since he wanted to do something for the human world, then first, he should get rid of these vermin one by one. There was no need to be merciful. Murderous intent flashed across his eyes, making King Lu and King Han come back to their senses. They knew Yu Fan's strength very well. Although he was only an advanced saint, his strength was comparable to a peak saint. As an assassin, his strongest point was his combat strength. His true strength was on par with King Han's. And with him leading the 10 saints to unleash their full strength, it was even more unimaginable. Others might not know, but King Lu knew very well that he and King Han could not resist at all. They did not even have a 10% chance of winning. Moreover, there were tens of thousands of star sector level experts. This formation was extremely terrifying. But Lin Feng in front of him, thinking of this, King Lu felt his hair stand on end. Cough cough. King Lu coughed dryly and quickly changed the topic. By the way, Brother Lin, why are you looking for me? Lin Feng nodded, his eyes bright. To be honest, I want to ask King Lu for a favor. King Lu was slightly startled. Peach Garden. The sacred ground of the entire southern region. Any saint would be proud to be able to enter the Peach Garden because this was the cultivation ground of the ruler of the southern region, one of the 12 sacred lords of the human race, Emperor Yao. Brother Lin, thank goodness you came to me to lead the way. King Lu smiled and said, Those in-name disciples, second-generation disciples and above, only have the right to enter but not to bring you in. Even if I could bring you here, I'm afraid you would be rejected. Lin Feng smiled slightly. He could feel that King Lu was trying to get on his good side. It was not a bad thing. King Lu paused and suddenly remembered what Lin Feng had said. His expression changed slightly. An unimaginable thought popped up in his mind. What would Lin Feng do if he was really rejected at the door? Thinking of this, King Lu could not help but break out in cold sweat. Given Lin Feng's personality, he would probably do the same as Kai-E Association and force his way in. Fortunately, I did not offend him, King Lu thought to himself. At this moment, if he still did not know Lin Feng's strength, he would not be the second senior brother. Sitting in his position, he had seen all kinds of martial artists. Lin Feng's abnormal strength was far beyond his imagination. It was better to be friends with such a person. King Lu thought to himself that he was lucky. He knew that his relationship with Lin Feng was not bad. It's right in front. King Lu pointed at the swirling fog in front of them. This was originally the place where Master cultivated in seclusion. After eldest senior brother succeeded the throne, he officially moved in here. At this point, King Lu was slightly startled. There was already someone waiting in front of them, and he was very familiar with that person. King Yan, eldest senior brother, is already waiting for you, Lin Feng. King Yan's eyes burned as he looked at Lin Feng. Lin Feng nodded slowly and turned to look at King Lu. He smiled and said, "Thank you, King Lu. You can stop here." "All right." King Lu smiled casually. He raised his head at King Yan as though he was demonstrating his power. Then, he turned to look at Lin Feng. "Come to South Lu Continent when you have time. Let's drink to our heart's content." "Definitely." Lin Feng smiled. He nodded and bade farewell. Then, he entered the swirling fog. Up ahead, he had already sensed an extremely powerful aura waiting not far away. The human emperor, Emperor Shun. According to Elder Heavenly Secrets, he would be an extremely important left hand in the future. Lin Feng stepped forward and breathed in the spirit chi that calmed his heart. His expression was calm as he approached that calm aura step by step. After passing through the swirling fog, everything in front of him became clear. It was as though he had passed through layers of illusions. In front of him, that lonely figure was standing with his hands behind his back. "I've been waiting for you for a long time, human emperor." Shun's eyes shone. Chapter 1177. Their eyes met. Lin Feng looked at the plainly dressed man in front of him and felt a sense of calmness. There was a faint smile on his face. His ordinary face had a unique temperament, as if he was high and mighty, but also very approachable. His eyes seemed to be able to see through everything, as if they could speak. Even though this was the first time they met, they felt like old friends who had known each other for a long time. The feeling he gave was very comfortable. "Emperor Shun." Lin Feng smiled and nodded. "Sit." Shun made a please gesture and said casually, "You came with King Lu?" "Yes." Lin Feng sat down slowly. There was only a small wooden table between him and Shun. He scanned the surroundings. Surrounded by mountains and rivers, the air here was unique and fresh, just like the name Paradise. It was as if one had entered a paradise and let go of all worries and worries. Shun smiled and said, "Only you, human emperor, can control my second junior brother." "Control?" Lin Feng was slightly startled and said, "Emperor Shun, you're exaggerating. King Lu and I are friends." Shun didn't answer. He just smiled and said, "Have you met the Heavenly Secret Saint Sovereign?" "Yes." A faint light flashed in Lin Feng's eyes. His meeting with the Heavenly Secret Saint Sovereign had cleared up his hazy thoughts. It could be said that he knew what to do next. However, how would Emperor Shun know? Lin Feng looked at Shun. Shun seemed to know what Lin Feng was thinking. He said casually, "Actually, everything I do is arranged by the Saint Sovereign. I don't have any personal honor or disgrace. As long as I can save the human race and make it survive this war of the liches and demons, I will die without regret." Lin Feng saw the determination in Shun's eyes, which was different from the calm look before. He sighed in his heart. Actually, the Heavenly Secret Saint Sovereign knew the current situation of the human race. Shun knew it, and he knew it too. From another perspective, Shun's words were full of uncertainty and worry about the future. Perhaps he had the determination to face death with equanimity, but the current situation was indeed not optimistic. "What does the human emperor think about the current situation?" Shun suddenly asked. "Actually, Emperor Shun can just call me Lin Feng. I'm just an ordinary person, not a human emperor, Lin Feng said softly. According to the heavenly secret Saint Sovereign, Lin Feng would definitely become the human sovereign realm in the future and become the key to the survival of the human clan. However, right now it was not the time yet. Being called that by Shun all the time, he felt a little uncomfortable. Human Emperor, you are too modest. Shun smiled faintly. The heavenly secret Saint Sovereign would never misjudge a person. Actually, Emperor Yao has been observing you for a long time. However, I didn't expect you to improve so much in just a few years. It is truly unbelievable. However, this also proves that you are indeed destined. Emperor Yao. Lin Feng was stunned. If Shun hadn't mentioned it, he really wouldn't have known. Shun nodded slowly. Although Master isn't as proficient in divination as the heavenly secret Saint Lord, he is quite knowledgeable in astrology. Master once said that since the power of cultivation comes from the starry sky, there must be a great mystery in the starry sky. Therefore, he is very interested in studying astrology. A few years ago, he said that the third war of the shamans and demons is about to begin. The two Emperor's stars will be the deciding factor of the final victory. Lin Feng's eyes brightened. The heavenly secret Saint Sovereign had mentioned this before. He was one of the Emperor's stars and possessed the transcendent fate of the Emperor constellation Ursa Major. Actually, to become an emperor, one must overcome all obstacles and go through all kinds of trials and tribulations. It can be said that the more you gain, the more you have to pay. It is not easy to survive and possess great strength and power. Shun said slowly with a solemn expression. However, in the past few years, the demon clan's emperor's star has been unyielding. The more you fight, the stronger you become. Now you are truly standing at the peak of all the stars. Archenemy, destined by the heavens, there can only be one emperor. These words were still lingering in Lin Feng's mind. When he met the heavenly secret Saint Sovereign again, although he did not mention it again, the meaning was very clear. This time, the war of the shamans and demons would not end in a draw. As the two emperors' stars bloomed, it meant that the human clan and the demon clan would fight to the death. There could only be one of the two, and the key to the human clan's victory was on him. The responsibility was very heavy, but he had to shoulder it. Whether it was for the greater good or the lesser good, he had to stand up. Looking at Shun and seeing his clear eyes, Lin Feng could not help but smile. Actually, he knew very well that Shun's words were deliberately meant for him. Whether it was to encourage him or to provoke him, he was indeed worthy of being the emperor of the human clan. Actually, Emperor Shun, you don't have to do this. Since I have promised the heavenly secret Saint Sovereign, I will not go back on my words. I will do my best. Lin Feng nodded. Shun smiled. I am overthinking. I thought that the human emperor still has doubts about this position and is hesitating. It's not like that. I just feel that I am not qualified yet. Lin Feng's eyes brightened. He looked at Shun and said slowly, Actually, I am here because of the Saint Sovereign's advice. I am here to ask Emperor Shun for help and discuss how to contribute to the human clan. The heavenly secret Saint Sovereign had pointed out a general direction for him. However, there were many forks in the road ahead. He still needed someone to point out the maze and make every detail the best. And this person was Emperor Shun. Human Emperor, you are too modest. If I really have the power to save the human clan, I don't need to give up the throne. Shun sighed and shook his head. The heavenly secret Saint Sovereign has given me a destiny. Although I have the destiny of an emperor, I am the emperor of a prosperous time, not the king of a chaotic time. In the current situation, there needs to be a new emperor with great courage to lead the human clan. Only then will the human clan have a chance to survive. That person is you, Lin Feng. Shun's eyes were like torches as he said, Become the new emperor of the human clan. Use your method to save the human clan. The first thing to do now is to make the position of the human emperor official. Fight for the throne and take control of the entire southern region. His voice was distant and long, gently echoing in this empty land. Lin Feng and Shun looked at each other. Their eyes were filled with determination and determination. They reached out and bumped their fists, smiling slightly. No words were needed to express everything. Fight for the throne. After leaving the peach blossom, Lin Feng's eyes were still bright. Just as Shun had said, this was a crucial opportunity for him to take control of the entire southern region. Just like the new demon clan emperor who had won the fight for the throne, he had used his absolute strength to suppress all opposition. The strong were respected. Everything was decided with one's fist. Whoever was stronger would have status and power. It would decide one's fate. King Yen, King Ju, and King Lu. The three of them are on par with each other. According to Shun, the three of them will definitely enter the final battle of the fight for the throne. However, they are not as strong as me. As for the other saints, there is no need to talk about them. Lin Feng's expression was calm. He had a deep understanding of his own strength. Not to mention the southern region, even in the entire human world, he could defeat all the saints. It could be said that he was almost invincible below the Saint Lord level. The witch race and ancient race did not know. However, the two races obviously would not participate in the fight for the throne. The only thing he had to face was the Holy Lord of the human demon. Huff! Lin Feng sighed lightly and shook his head slightly. He frowned slightly. He did not expect that he would not be able to avoid this demon. According to Shun, the Holy Lord of the human demon was an old monster who had survived the Second Great War. His strength was unpredictable. Just the strength of a Saint Lord alone was not something he could resist. If not for Shui Yumei, he would have been killed in the Vermilion Bird realm. The most troublesome thing now was that there was not much time left before the start of the fight for the throne. To be precise, it should be the start of the Third Great War. Time was getting closer and closer. He could almost hear the bell ringing. The first step to becoming the human emperor was also a necessary step. First, he had to be legitimate. We will cross the bridge when we get there. Anyway, I have to make a trip to the ancient race first. Maybe, by the time I return, I will have a plan. A faint smile appeared on Lin Feng's face. His expression was calm. He did not know why, but even with such a heavy burden, his heart was still strangely calm. The greater the pressure, the greater the responsibility, the more he could unleash his strength. How many times had he experienced such a situation? He is the future human emperor? King Yen was stunned. Yes. Shun's expression was calm but firm. Just as the heavenly secret Saint Lord said, this child will decide the fate of the human race. King Yan's expression kept changing. He found it hard to accept. If it was his eldest senior brother, Shun, he would not care. However, Lin Feng, a new martial artist who had just emerged from the Vermilion Bird continent under his control, was going to become the human emperor. And he, King Yen, had to listen to his orders. Thinking of this, King Yan's heart was in a mess. His expression turned ugly. He was very unhappy. I know you are not convinced. Shun looked at King Yen. However, the human race is in a state of disunity. We must unite. There is no need to mention King Lu. King Ju also has his own plans. There are also other forces with complicated thoughts. Now that the southern region is in chaos, we must stand firm. King Yen raised his hand to interrupt him. Eldest senior brother, you don't have to persuade me. With a proud expression, King Yan's eyes were burning. If you want me to be convinced, it's simple. If he can defeat me one-on-one, I, King Yen, will be respectful to him and follow his lead. If not, King Yen looked at Shun and his expression softened. Eldest senior brother, please don't blame me. Shun smiled. Of course. Only with absolute strength could one make others submit to him. Shun knew King Yan's temperament. He was resolute and resolute. He meant what he said. If senior brother has nothing else, I will take my leave first. King Yan cupped his hands and said, Okay, go. Shun clasped his hands behind his back and nodded slightly. He watched King Yan leave. Then, he let out a sigh of relief. He turned around and slowly walked to the lakeside. Looking at the rippling surface of the lake, his eyes were clear but worried. It was because he knew very well that this was just the beginning. What the human race was going to face was a true calamity of life and death. 9 deaths, 1 life. We can only fight. Shun's eyes were bright. He murmured faintly. His right hand drew a streak of light. An exquisite brocade pouch was blown by the breeze and slowly fell into the lake. Chapter 1178. Northern Region. Bang! The teacup in his hand fell to the ground. Zwabuffon opened his mouth and didn't close it for a long time. Something that could make the strongest saint in the northern region and even the human world so shocked was obviously not an ordinary thing. Zwabuffon was not only the leader of the 8 Regions Alliance and the strongest in the northern region, but also had a powerful identity in the underground forces. The Tsai Association, the president. Their forces spread across the 9 regions of the human world. The Tsai Association was not only the leader of the underground forces in the southern region, but also had decisive power in other human regions. In the northern region, they even had connections with both the good and the bad. This was also the reason why King Lu didn't stop the Tsai Association from doing whatever they wanted in the southern region. He couldn't afford to offend them. Annihilated? Zwabuffon murmured with a look of disbelief. Yes. The man in black kneeling on one knee lowered his head and didn't dare to say more, for fear of angering Zwabuffon. Bang! Zwabuffon slammed the table and stood up. His eyes were ferocious, and his anger instantly turned into anger. He roared like a lion. Who did it? The man in black hesitated slightly and whispered, It's a newly promoted saint called Lin Feng. Lin Feng? Zwabuffon frowned. He had never heard of this name. Have you investigated it? Where does he belong to? How did he plan this operation? How did the whole process go? Tell me everything in detail. Zwabuffon gritted his teeth. After all, he was ambitious and ruthless, so he quickly calmed down. Why aren't you talking? Zwabuffon glanced at the man in black coldly. Don't tell me you haven't investigated it? With a deep threat in his eyes, Zwabuffon's eyes emitted a cold glint, revealing his killing intent. In an instant, the black-clothed man kept quiet out of fear and bowed his head. This subordinate has already said that it was done by a newly advanced martial artist, Lin Feng. Nonsense. Zwabuffon coldly reprimanded. I want to know the details. This. The man in black felt the killing intent and broke out in a cold sweat. Commander, no one saw the details. There were no survivors in the entire southern region. All of them were killed. Zwabuffon's ferocious face was a little surprised. His frown deepened. All of them were killed. Those were tens of thousands of killers carefully trained by the Tsai Association. There were many enemies? How many saints are there? Zwabuffon said in a deep voice, Does this matter have anything to do with the King of Lu, King Yen, and the other kings of the 9 provinces? Did they help in secret? The black-clothed man's face was aghast. His voice was as soft as a mosquito's. Reporting to Commander, there is no one else. There is only Lin Feng. This time, Zwabuffon really understood. His pupils almost popped out of their socket. What did you say? You single-handedly annihilated over 10,000 experts from the southern region of Tsai society? Yes, Commander. The black-robed youth was trembling with fear. Incomparably shocking. It made Zwabuffon's entire body feel cold, and he felt a deep chill in the depths of his heart. One person, just one person had exterminated the southern region headquarters of Tsai society. Zhuobufan was so shocked that it was difficult for him to calm down. However, his anger had already disappeared without a trace and was replaced by deep shock. Who was this Lin Feng? How could he possess such power? This is the information about Lin Feng. The black-clothed man respectfully handed over a stack of papers in fear. Zhuobufan took it with an ashen face and a dignified face. He opened the information and looked at it word by word, line by line, with his brows tightly knitted. After a long time, leave. Zhuobufan waved his hand. His voice was slightly hoarse and weak. Yes, Commander. The black-clothed man secretly wiped his sweat. Receiving the order was like receiving amnesty. He hurriedly retreated in a panic, for fear that Zhuobufan would change his mind. However, how could Zhuobufan have the mind to pay attention to him now? Now all his thoughts were on Lin Feng. Bang! Closing the information, Zhuobufan's face was pale and he stood up abruptly. This Lin Feng is really too dangerous. This matter must be reported to the Sacred Lord. I'm afraid it's difficult to deal with it alone. With a deep gaze, Zhuobufan made up his mind. Then, he turned into a gust of wind and left. Lin Feng's strength was far beyond his imagination. It was not something he could do. In the Tsai society, although Zhuobufan commanded the overall situation and decided everything, in fact, he was not the real ruler of the Tsai society. Behind him, there was the existence of the king, who supported the Tsai society like a pillar, making Emperor Yao and the other sacred lords wary of him. The fate of the Tsai society had long been decided. It was not that they did not want revenge, but that the time had not come. When the existence of a force was based on the sacrifice and fulfillment of others, then its destruction was only a matter of time. Especially for such an assassin organization, they were offending people almost every minute and second. Perhaps the Tsai society had a big backer behind them, but there was always a mountain higher than the one before. Even if Lin Feng did not take action today, sooner or later, other forces would take action. The annihilation of the largest underground force in the southern region, the Colorful Clothes Society, was merely an inexplicable fire to ordinary people. However, in the hearts of the various large forces and the experts of the southern region, it was like a bomb had exploded with a loud bang. Everyone was dumbstruck and overwhelmed with shock. Lin Feng. This name had spread from Shirluo Prefecture to the Vermilion Bird continent. Now, it had been deeply imprinted in the hearts of every saint. How frightening! He had killed 10 saints by himself, and almost overturned all the forces of the Tsai society in the southern region. It was simply unbelievable. Not only were all the saints killed, but even more than 80% of the Star Sector-level assassins were killed. Only those lucky assassins who had just been on a mission had escaped. It could be said that he had given the Tsai society a taste of their own medicine. He had given the Tsai society an unforgettable shame. And now, Lin Feng, however, he acted as if nothing had happened and was going to visit someone. The former president of the Zhuke Chao Refiners Union, Wang Shi. The king's residence. One of the 3 major blacksmith families in the Vermilion Bird continent. They were as famous as the Nangong family and the Ouyang clan. In the blacksmith competition in the Vermilion Bird continent, the 3 major families basically took first, second, and third place. For example, this year, Lady Nangong, Master Ouyang, and Wang Bo were the most outstanding blacksmiths in the 3 major families. Please inform them that I'm looking for Master Wang Shi, Lin Feng said with a smile. He couldn't just barge in. He didn't have any grudges with the Wang family. Besides, he was here to visit and ask for help. Last time, he had heard from Lady Nangong that the former president, Wang Shi, might know the language of the universe overlords, so he wanted to visit him to solve the secret of the parchment. Now, he could fulfill his wish. Before going to the ancients, he had one last wish. Who are you? Do you think the Grand Elder is someone you can meet just because you want to? The gatekeeper of the Wang family said proudly. You're here to learn from him again, right? The other gatekeeper said with a smile. Lin Feng smiled indifferently. He didn't take it to heart. With his identity, he naturally wouldn't bicker with them. He casually took out the vice president's token from the Union of Artificers and threw it over. Tell the president that Lin Feng wants to see him for something important. The two gatekeepers took the token and looked at the seal that represented his identity. Their faces immediately turned green. Then, when they heard the name Lin Feng, they were scared out of their wits and their bodies trembled. The news of Lin Feng annihilating the Tsai society in the Nanlu continent had just spread like wildfire. Azura, executioner, killing god Lin Feng's nickname was too many to count. Who wouldn't be afraid of him? Yes, I'll go right away. Senior, please come in. The two of them changed their attitudes in an instant. However, their attitude changed faster than flipping a book. One of them ran away as if he had grown a pair of hairy legs. The other clansman who didn't get the token trembled all over. He put on a flattering look and kept nodding and bowing. They were horrified, afraid that Lin Feng would kill them in a fit of rage. If that happened, they would die in vain. Lin Feng smiled and followed the clansman into the king's mansion. He had seen this kind of situation many times before. In the hall, the members of the king's mansion stood at the side, trembling with fear as they served Lin Feng. Their eyes were filled with fear as if a creditor had come knocking on their door. Lin Feng sat down and waited patiently. Looking around, the hall was quite stylish. Stone sculptures were placed everywhere. The jade floor was bright and transparent, symbolizing status and wealth. The air was filled with the scorching aura of fire elements. The atmosphere of a blacksmith could be felt everywhere. The geographical environment was excellent. Soon, loud laughter was heard. Lin Feng smiled and stood up. In the distance, Wang Shi, dressed in a loose robe, came over with a relaxed face. Compared to the other people who were cautious, Wang Shi seemed to be very relaxed. As soon as he entered the door, his eyes were bright and he laughed. Long time no see, little brother. President, how have you been? Lin Feng smiled and nodded. Although they didn't know each other well, he had a good impression of the former president. According to Lady Nangong, he was the one who recommended him to be the vice president. Since I don't have to worry about the alliance, I feel a lot more free. Wang Shi smiled and shook hands with Lin Feng. He looked around and nodded. You can all leave. Without my permission, no one is allowed to come in. Yes, Grand Elder. The members of the Wang family bowed. As if they had been pardoned, they all smiled and let out a sigh of relief. They quickly left. In an instant, the whole hall quieted down. Brother Lin is really famous. Wang Shi looked at the panicked and relieved expressions of the people and smiled. Why? You came all the way here to see me. It's not as simple as just visiting an old man, right? He raised his eyebrows. President, you must be joking. Lin Feng smiled and said, Please forgive me for being straightforward. I wonder if President can read the words Masters of the Starry Sky? Wang Shi's eyes lit up. I know a little. Sure enough. Lin Feng was delighted. With a light flash in his hand, he took out a piece of parchment and handed it over. President, please take a look. Wang Shi nodded. The smile on his face instantly turned serious. He took the parchment and looked at the words on it. His eyes lit up. In an instant, his complexion changed drastically. His hands that were holding the parchment trembled violently. His face revealed an expression of extreme shock. He turned his head abruptly. Where did you get this? Chapter 1179. Lin Feng noticed the change in Wang Shi's expression. What was recorded on the parchment was obviously extraordinary for it to make the president of the Union of Artificers lose his composure. I found it by chance in the Sparrow King prison, Lin Feng answered without hiding anything. It was a despicable act to hide something from others when one had a favor to ask. Treasures belonged to those who were fated to obtain them. If Wang Shi was fated to obtain them, he would be happy for him. However, with his strength, the chances of him entering the third level of the Sparrow King prison were not high. Sparrow King prison. Wang Shi's eyes lit up as he pondered. He then looked at the parchment, browsed it up and down, and nodded slowly. No wonder, no wonder. His expression was extremely serious. When Lin Feng saw this, he was even more curious. He didn't know what was written on the parchment that could make the experienced President Wang Shi react in such a way. Although he was curious, Lin Feng did not disturb him. He just stood there quietly as a form of respect. There was no need to rush. When the president finished reading it, he would tell him everything. He skimmed through it once and then browsed through it again. As if he was afraid of reading it wrongly, Wang Shi pointed at the parchment and read it word by word. From time to time, he would murmur softly. Time passed very slowly. The main hall was silent. Only Wang Shi's serious murmur could be heard. He spoke some unknown words. These were the words of a starry sky expert. Lin Feng's eyes lit up. He vaguely understood. What was recorded on the parchment was probably not from the fighting spirit world. It was no wonder that the experienced president was so shocked. After a long time, phew! Wang Shi exhaled deeply and shook his head. I've learned a lot. I've really learned a lot. I originally thought that I had already immersed myself in the art of artifact forging. In the entire human world, there were not many people who were more knowledgeable than me. Who would have thought that we were just frogs at the bottom of a well? Wang Shi laughed self-deprecatingly and sighed. Lin Feng's eyes lit up. Just from a few words, he could already understand a lot. The path of refining. What was written on the parchment in the language of the starry sky experts had a lot to do with refining. Wang Shi turned to look at Lin Feng and smiled. Sorry to keep you waiting. Don't worry. Lin Feng smiled. Wang Shi's eyes flashed and he nodded. But this old man can guarantee that your wait will be worth it. His eyes deeply glanced at the parchment and he let out a long breath. Wang Shi's expression was serious and his eyes sparkled. You've picked up a treasure, Lin Feng. What is recorded on this is the manufacturing method for the astral treasure Qi. Wang Shi's every word was a gem. Astral treasure? What? Lin Feng was a little stunned. However, he did not expect that it would be this answer. He had thought that it was some kind of special refining path, but it was actually a manufacturing method? In short, wasn't it a refining guidebook? Don't frown. Wang Shi smiled. You can't be thinking that this is a refining guidebook, right? Wang Shi scratched his head and said, Speaking of which, it is actually a refining guidebook, but... Looking at Lin Feng, Wang Shi's eyes lit up. This is a heaven-rank, refining guidebook. The astral treasure Qi is a heaven-rank treasure. Lin Feng was stunned. In fact, there were very few things that could move his heart. However, from what Wang Shi said just now, he was indeed moved. A heaven-rank refining guidebook, a heaven-rank astral treasure Qi, did he hear wrong? That was a heaven-rank. A refiner could actually create a heaven-rank astral treasure? This was unheard of. I always thought that heaven rank was an existence exclusive to innate treasures, but this thinking was obviously narrow-minded. Wang Shi's eyes flashed. Since there are heaven rank innate treasures, why can't there be heaven rank acquired treasures? In fact, we have always overlooked a problem, and that is... Wang Shi looked at Lin Feng and said, Outstanding refiners are basically all at the star domain level. However, according to what is written here, the most basic requirement to refine Qi is that one's strength must be at the saint level or above. Otherwise, it is simply impossible to refine it. And this is merely the simplest and most basic requirement. The refining techniques, methods, and details recorded here are already far beyond the limits of the Douling world's refiners. With a self-deprecating smile, Wang Shi said, "Perhaps it is because my own strength is not enough. However, it has indeed opened this old man's eyes. A saint-level refiner, perfectly compatible with him." Lin Feng's mind was in turmoil, and he was pleasantly surprised. In reality, after seizing the crown of the Weapon Refinement Master competition, he actually no longer desired to be a weapon refinement master, because with his current weapon refinement strength and fire control ability, it was sufficient to complete the refinement of any astral treasure or astral tool without any difficulty. In fact, the strongest astral treasure or astral weapon he could refine was Earth rank 9th layer. To him, other than exchanging them for money, what else could they be used for? He did not lack money at all. But heaven rank was a domain that he had never touched. Not to mention that there were no heaven rank acquired astral treasures, even heaven rank innate treasures were only legends. He had never even seen one before. Legend had it that heaven rank treasures possessed great strength, and the only one he knew was the 100 Falls. This special innate treasure with suppressive abilities was truly astonishing. This thing is useless in the hands of others. But in the hands of a refiner, it is a priceless treasure. Just some of the knowledge and refining techniques on it are enough for a refiner to benefit for a lifetime. Wang Shi smiled. At least I know which direction to go in refining techniques, and which details to cultivate to increase my strength. The path of refining is broad and profound, star domain level. Wang Shi shook his head. In fact, it is not mainstream at all. In the Douling world, refining is too simple. Wang Shi sighed, as if he was deeply regretful. He slowly looked at Lin Feng. But Lin Feng, you are different. With your strength, you can completely refine the heaven rank astral treasure, Qi. Eyes shining, Wang Shi clenched his fist. If this old man can see the refinement of a heaven rank astral treasure in this lifetime, I will truly die without regret. His heart was surging. Lin Feng's eyes were burning, and he felt his blood boiling. Refining a heaven rank astral treasure with his own hands, this was so exciting, so exciting. Just thinking about it made him look forward to it. I wonder if it is convenient for President to translate one for me? Lin Feng asked. Of course, no problem. Wang Shi smiled. This is my honor, but... Looking at the words on the parchment, Wang Shi pursed his lips and frowned. Although this old man has studied the starry sky language, I do not dare to be 100% sure. I still need to think about it carefully. Lin Feng nodded, but he understood. Strictly speaking, this was a refining guide after all. In refining, a single mistake could lead to a complete failure. Not even the slightest flaw could be tolerated. Wang Shi's caution was very correct. No rush, President can take your time to study it. I will come back another day. Lin Feng smiled. Brother Lin is really broad-minded. You are actually willing to part with such a priceless treasure. Wang Shi's eyes sparkled. He patted his chest and said, just based on this trust, this old man will perfectly translate this whole refining method. Brother Lin, you can be at ease. This old man absolutely will not leak this matter to a second person. Then I will have to trouble President. Lin Feng nodded. Junior is endlessly grateful. Haha, what are you saying? Wang Shi suddenly said, however, this old man has a wish. I hope Brother Lin can fulfill it. President, there is no harm in speaking. Lin Feng said softly. Wang Shi's expression was serious. He looked straight ahead. Although it is a bit abrupt, this old man sincerely requests. If one day Brother Lin refines the astral treasure this old man hopes to be able to observe and learn from the side, to personally witness the birth of a miracle. Lin Feng heard this and laughed. A small matter. President can be at ease. Brother Lin is indeed a straightforward person. Wang Shi's eyes sparkled. This old man will definitely translate it completely in 1 month, 3 months at most. Softly muttering, Wang Shi seemed to have thought of something. He said, Brother Lin, if Brother Lin has nothing important to do, there is no harm in temporarily staying for a day. This old man will first translate the materials needed to refine Ho. This is good. Lin Feng smiled. Materials were very crucial. Refining methods and techniques could be learned, but materials were essential. And the materials needed to refine a heaven-ranked treasure were absolutely not ordinary. Searching for them could not be done in a short time. There was a buffer period, so the chances of finding them were a bit higher. Living in the Wang mansion, despite Wang Shi's enthusiasm, Lin Feng tactfully declined his invitation. It was only 1 day. There was no need to be so extravagant. Besides, he did not want to cause more trouble, because this really was. Miss Wang is too polite. Just arrange a quiet room for me. I want to cultivate in seclusion for a day. Looking at the beautiful woman in front of him, Lin Feng felt rather helpless. Indeed, the older the ginger, the spicier it was. He still fell for it. Even a blind person could see Wang Shi's behavior. Since the banquet did not work, he actually sent his granddaughter to entertain him. What great face! Wang Xining's voice was as soft as a mosquito's. Her beautiful eyes moved slightly. Does Lin Degu really not need servants? No. Lin Feng smiled and nodded. Sorry to trouble you, Miss Wang. Wang Xining was slightly startled. She suddenly smiled sweetly. No need to be polite. Lin Degu is really easy to approach. He is not at all as cold-blooded and heartless as the outside world says, like a reincarnated Azura. Is that so? Lin Feng smiled. Inger feels that Lin Degu is a real man. Wang Xining pouted and snorted lightly. He is not like those foppish young masters who only know how to show off their family background and have some mediocre martial arts skills. A real expert will not show it, just like Lin Degu. Also, Lin Feng felt rather helpless as he listened to her voice that was like an oriole's. This little girl seemed to be very familiar with everyone. She did not treat him as an outsider at all, chattering non-stop. But what could he do? Fortunately, it was only 1 day. In fact, Lin Feng did not appear again after entering the room, until Wang Shi personally came to visit. These are the materials. Wang Shi handed over a list in his hand. Sorry to trouble you, President. Lin Feng took the list and casually glanced through it. He nodded thoughtfully. There were many materials that he had not even heard of. However, since Wang Shi could translate them, there must be it. He could slowly think of a way. Lin Feng was suddenly stunned when his gaze landed on the material at the top. By the way, Brother Lin. Wang Shi raised his eyebrows. What do you think of Xining? They were getting to the point. Lin Feng's eyes flashed. Smack. He instantly rolled up the list and put it away. He looked at Wang Shi and smiled. She is beautiful and intelligent. Then, I will have to trouble you to translate the rest, President. I still have important matters to attend to. Sorry, I will take my leave first. With that, he cupped his hands. Before Wang Shi could react, Lin Feng immediately slipped away. Wang Shi, who had regained his senses, could not help but laugh. Chapter 1180. Rushing out of the mansion, Lin Feng finally let out a sigh of relief. This kind of attentiveness was indeed unbearable for him. Not to mention that he already had 3 wives, just Wang Xining's age was too inappropriate. He had just turned 14 years old and was like a budding flower. Only Wang Shi could think of such a thing. He felt rather helpless, but this kind of thing could not be pushed away, nor could he not push it away. and escape was the most straightforward option. 14 years old. Lin Feng's eyes twinkled. About the same as the first time I met Shi Jixin. He pondered in his heart, but seeing Wang Xining, he could not help but think of the doll-like Shi Jixin back then. Now, she had already grown up. Currently, she was cultivating with Jin Ji and Thousand Love Emperor in the Land of Miracles. She would not come out until 3 years had passed. I wonder how their cultivation is going. Are they about to break through to saint level? Lin Feng's eyes twinkled. With Shi Jixin and Jin Ji's aptitude, breaking through to saint level should not be difficult, but Thousand Love Emperor was even more relaxed. She should have broken through to saint level? I wonder when she will come out. He slightly smiled. He and Thousand Love Emperor could be considered to have become friends after fighting. They became bosom buddies in the 3rd level of the Sparrow King prison. This parchment was something she had given him. Astral treasure Qi. Lin Feng's eyes twinkled. He opened the list again. There were more than 100 kinds of materials on it, far better than ordinary astral treasures. Moreover, the price was more than 10 million times. Lin Feng glanced through it all. Wang Shi not only wrote down the full name, but also the weight. And the most eye-catching was the first material he saw just now. Heavenly Ya Crystal. 7-star crystal, the main material to refine Qi. Lin Feng's eyes twinkled. He browsed through Wang Shi's notes and smiled. He might not have other 7-star crystals, but he had a considerable amount of Heavenly Ya Crystal. When he entered the Netherworld ship that day, there was a large piece of Heavenly Ya Crystal wall. Even though it was closed and Toto was in deep slumber, he still had quite a lot of Tianya crystal powder. Even though it wasn't a lot, it was more than enough. It really is a treasure that can be refined into a heaven stage. The main material needed is actually a 7-star crystal. Lin Feng sighed slightly. Ordinary crystals were divided into 9 grades to the 1st grade, and high-grade crystals were divided into 1 to 7 stars, high, middle, and low grades. Among them, refining mortal rank acquired treasures would require 1 to 3 stars, while refining earth rank acquired treasures would require 4 to 6 stars. 7 stars was known as a legendary existence. There's a second main ingredient, the extreme fire silkworm. Lin Feng frowned slightly, unable to understand. Hearing the name, it apparently should be a demon beast or strange beast type, but if this was not refining an astral treasure, what did it have to do with demon beasts and strange beasts? Slightly stunned, Lin Feng was puzzled. Most importantly, he had never heard of this name before, so he had no idea what it was. But it was clear that one of the main materials alongside the Tianya crystal was definitely not ordinary. There's a third main ingredient, the divine beast blood essence. Lin Feng scratched his head. It doesn't say any divine beast, so it should be fine. But where is the blood essence, and how do I get it? Confused, Lin Feng sighed lightly. Fortunately, there are only 3 main ingredients, or else it would really be fatal. He smiled helplessly. There were 3 main ingredients, each rarer than the last. If he did not have the Tianya crystal, he really did not know where to find it. 7-star crystal was quite rare, and it could not be found on the market. In fact, precious 6-star crystal was almost extinct in the major chambers of commerce and auction houses. It was very difficult to find. Returning to the Union of Artificers, Lin Feng did not return to Shirluo County, but there was no need for that. The Qin Chamber of Commerce had basically finished all the arrangements, and the clan was thriving. Under the leadership of his adoptive father and the care of the county city lord, Wang Mo, there would not be any major problems. Now that the matter was settled, it was about time for him to set off. After seeing Lin Yuma, Lin Feng immediately found Lady Nangong. These materials. Lady Nangong looked at the list in her hand, her eyes shining. What do you want to refine? If I say it's a heaven-rank astral treasure, would President believe me? Lin Feng smiled gently. Lady Nangong's gaze was like a torch as she stared at Lin Feng. I believe you. Looking at Lin Feng, she said slowly, I won't be surprised if anything happens to you. Looking at the list again, Lady Nangong said softly, You need more than 100 materials, 4-star, 5-star, and 6-star metal ores, and you need the Tianya crystal as the main ingredient. Actually, I guessed it. Lin Feng looked at Lady Nangong, his heart filled with admiration. Very powerful. Compared to him who relied on his innate talent to refine, Lady Nangong was truly immersed in the path of refining. In his opinion, in terms of refining, perhaps even Wang Shi and President were inferior. I didn't think there really would be a heaven-rank acquired treasure. Lady Nangong's eyes twinkled as she looked at Lin Feng. Actually, 2 years ago I thought of this possibility. I flipped through many ancient books to search for information, and I found many clues, but Lady Nangong shook her head. My martial talent is limited. Even if I know the possibility of refining a heaven-rank artifact, I'm afraid I can't do it. Looking at Lin Feng, Lady Nangong was quite gratified. I didn't think you, Lin Feng, would be one step ahead of me. Lin Feng calmly said, Lady Nangong must be joking. I happened to obtain a heaven-rank astral treasure refining method, so I had this idea. So that's how it is. Lady Nangong suddenly nodded, her eyes slightly shining. Lin Feng, are you sure you can refine it? Her chest rose and fell. Even if Lady Nangong was always calm and collected, she still felt excited. As a weapon refinement master, who didn't want to see the birth of a heaven-rank artifact? Furthermore, it was to be refined. I don't know. Lin Feng shrugged and said with a faint smile, I'll give it a try for the time being, but the important thing right now is that these materials aren't easy to find. Lady Nangong nodded. Her gaze once again swept over the materials on the list. She pursed her lips and softly muttered, How about this, for the materials below 7-star, leave it to the Union of Artificers to help you find them. Although some materials are rare, they shouldn't be a big problem. But these 3 kinds of main materials, slightly wrinkling her brows, Lady Nangong softly muttered, not a single one can be easily obtained. Heavenly crystals are very rare. If the quantity is small, then there is a possibility, but I have heavenly crystals. Lin Feng softly said, The main ones are the extreme fire silkworm and divine beast essence blood. I don't know how to obtain them. Lady Nangong was slightly startled. She gazed at Lin Feng with a gaze that carried some curiosity, yet she did not pursue the matter. She only slightly nodded. Then the difficulty is slightly reduced. Only the extreme fire silkworm and divine beast essence blood remain. Among them, divine beast essence blood should not be limited to any divine beast. However, only a saint-level divine beast would have essence blood, so to obtain it is not easy. Wait! Lin Feng hastily asked, May I ask, President, what is essence blood? Lady Nangong smiled. Do you know how a divine beast cultivates and advances in rank? Lin Feng nodded. By absorbing the qi of heaven and earth and lighting up the 5 destined star plates, a divine beast will become a saint-level divine beast. Lighting up one of the 2 destined star plates, yin and yang, will allow it to become a saint-level divine beast. If both destined star plates are lit up, it will completely transform and become a starry sky elite. He might not be clear about other things, but as the owner of the Phoenix natal plate, he could not be clearer about the divine beast's cultivation path. Lady Nangong nodded. The production of essence blood is related to the destined star plates and destined star plate. Lighting up all 5 destined star plates, a divine beast will become a divine beast. At this time, a drop of essence blood will be condensed in the natal plate, just like the soul of a human, containing the power of the stars. So that's how it is. Lin Feng's eyes twinkled, and he immediately understood. It was similar to the inner core of a mutated beast. In other words, if he wanted to obtain the essence blood of a divine beast, he must kill a saint-level divine beast. Lin Feng smiled casually. He could not help but think of the past, when he needed to hunt divine beasts to increase his strength. At that time, he did not have the strength to do so. However, with his current strength, killing a divine beast was not too difficult. The key was to find the divine beast. Although it was not easy, at least he knew what to do. What was left was how to complete it. Then what is the extreme fire silkworm? Lin Feng asked again. Lady Nangong answered, the extreme fire silkworm is a very special kind of mutated beast. Strictly speaking, it is actually a kind of spiritual creature. It lives in the hottest region of the Douling world. It is not rare to say that it is rare, but it is almost impossible to find in the human world. The hottest region of the Douling world. Impossible to find in the human world? Lin Feng's heart skipped a beat. You mean, the hottest region of the Douling world is in the depths of the wilderness? Lady Nangong's eyes were burning. It is in the territory of the sorcerer race and the ancient race. Lin Feng, I have already helped you to investigate this trip to the ancient race. The ancient Phoenix clan is located in the southern ancient region, one of the 7 ancient regions. It is one of the hottest regions of the Douling world. It is a good opportunity to find the whereabouts of the extreme fire silkworm. The southern ancient region. Lin Feng's eyes lit up. The ancient Phoenix clan was located in the 7 ancient regions. This time, his destination. What a coincidence. There was no reluctance or burden. After bidding farewell to Yuma and Lady Nangong, Lin Feng left the Union of Artificers and headed to the Union of Inscribers. The Union of Artificers had a teleportation point to the sorcerer race, but there was no teleportation point to the ancient race. The Union of Inscribers was backed by the ancient race, so there was a teleportation point to the ancient race. In the entire human world, only the Union of Inscribers and the Union of Star Talisman Masters had the right to enter the ancient race. The others had to enter the Boorish Desolate and search for them. To Lin Feng, not only did it take a long time, but the Boorish Desolate was so big that he had no sense of direction at all. It was not easy to find them. Thank you. Lin Feng nodded at Yan Qing. Master Yan Qing was one of the top inscribers in the Vermilion Bird continent. He had an extremely high status in the Union of Inscribers. Don't mention it. It's not my credit. Yan Qing smiled. If you want to thank someone, thank the president. I only recommended you. Entering the ancient race. I don't have that authority. As he spoke, Yan Qing could not help but look at Lu Yibi, who was beside him. The president of the Vermilion Bird Continent's Union of Inscribers. Sorry to trouble you, President. Lin Feng smiled. You're welcome. It's just a small matter. Lu Yibi smiled and looked quite friendly. After exchanging some pleasantries, the teleportation point was activated. Lin Feng smiled and bade farewell to the two of them. In a flash of white light, he left in an instant. At this moment, the smile on Lu Yibi's face slowly disappeared, and a glint flashed across his small eyes. Chapter 1181. In the Wasteland World. In the enormous Douling world, the human domain only took up a very small part of it. It was almost negligible. Strength determined everything. Among the 3 major human races, whether it was individual strength, racial advantage, or martial talent, the human race was ranked at the bottom, an inconspicuous existence. The only thing that the humans had over the ancient race and the sorcerer race was their numbers, which were far greater than the ancient race and the sorcerer race. This was also the biggest reason why the wizard tribe kept humans alive. Even though the probability of human powerhouses advancing to star sector level, Saint, and Sage King was less than 1% of the ancient tribe and the wizard tribe, but the base number was huge. There would always be a few exceptional martial artists who broke through the tribe limit and stood at the peak of the Douling world. The Saint level was stronger than the Cosmic Realm level, and the Saint King level was stronger than the Saint level. Although Sage King humans could not summon the wind and rain, they still had a certain status and dignity in front of the Wizard tribe and the Ancient tribe. For example, they could step into the Ancient tribe and the Wizard tribe's territory without any obstacles. However, Saint was not qualified. Whoosh! A light flashed. Lin Feng's figure slowly appeared, his eyes burning. I didn't expect it to be so simple. Lin Feng thought. This Lu Yibi is quite easy to talk to. Originally, this would be quite troublesome. With a smile, Lin Feng stepped out of the transportation formation. When Lady Nangong gave him directions, she had said that Lu Yibi might not give her face. After all, to enter the Ancient tribe's territory, a human powerhouse's strength had to reach Sage King. Strictly speaking, Lu Yibi had violated the rules by letting him in. He's really influential. Lin Feng smiled faintly. He knew in his heart that the biggest reason why this matter could go so smoothly was because of Master Yen Qing or Lady Nangong's help. After all, he and Lu Yibi had met by chance and did not have any friendship. I should thank him when I have the chance, Lin Feng said softly and then looked around. It was hot. As if being roasted by fire, the area here was filled with extremely rich fire element. The surroundings were bright red, and even the ground seemed to be roasted. The overwhelming heat wave rushed over, and weaker martial artists could not withstand it at all. Southern Ancient Region, as expected of one of the hottest regions in the Douling world. Lin Feng nodded slowly and closed his eyes. The surrounding fire elements were like happy little fairies, scurrying around. To him, these flames were nothing. Even without the protection of the flames of rebirth, his body's toughness alone was enough to withstand them. The ancient race was a race that had inherited the blood of divine beasts. Therefore, they were extremely talented. In the southern ancient region, the ancient clans that inherited the fire-type divine beast resided there. The ancient Phoenix clan was one of them. I don't know where it is, Lin Feng muttered. Slowly opening his eyes, he saw a mountain range that stretched as far as the eye could see. The aboriginals were the same as the divine beast. They loved nature and did not like to live in an area with energy civilization like the humans. To a certain extent, the aboriginals, the sorcerer tribe, and even the demon tribe were similar in this aspect. They did not pursue material life, and only focused on cultivation and searching for the heavenly way. Let's look around. As long as we can find any ancient clan, it won't be difficult to find the ancient clan of Sofeng. Lin Feng nodded slowly. In an instant, he flew away. At the Vermilion Bird Continent's Union of Engravers. Hua! A silhouette slowly appeared. His red eyes were frightening. It was the enforcer of the ancient clan, Qi Tong. Greetings, enforcer. Lu Yibi cupped his hands and greeted him respectfully. Where did he go? Qi Tong's expression was calm. He turned the dragon head ring that symbolized his identity on his right hand. Enforcer, he went to the southern ancient region, Lu Yibi said seriously. Qi Tong nodded slightly. The red light in his eyes flickered slightly. Did anyone else go with him? Lu Yibi frowned and shook his head. No one else. Lu Yibi bowed slightly. His eyes shone brightly. Enforcer, you have great foresight. Lin Feng did go to the southern ancient region. As soon as he left, I immediately informed you. Qi Tong said in a deep voice, well done. You will be rewarded. Ever since he received the order from the divine envoy, Qi Tong had been waiting for him in the Lin clan. However, he did not see him. In fact, not only did he inform the Inscription Masters Alliance, but he also informed the Star Talisman Masters Alliance. As long as Lin Feng made any strange movements and wanted to enter the ancient region to seek refuge with the ancient Feng clan, they would immediately inform him. Not only did Qi Tong embarrass himself by killing 4 of his subordinates, but he also brought shame to the ancient clan. This time, Qi Tong was personally sent by the divine envoy. Naturally, he could not afford to make any mistake. "Thank you, Enforcer." Lu Yibi was overjoyed. The enforcer in front of him was not an ordinary person. He was an expert at the peak of the saint stage and had an important position in the ancient clan temple. When he said that he would be rewarded, it was definitely not an ordinary reward. Qi Tong nodded. He hesitated for a moment before asking, "Can you see Lin Feng's strength?" Lu Yibi frowned slightly. "I don't know. However, rumor has it that Lin Feng's strength is unfathomable. He should be at the advanced or peak of the saint stage." Qi Tong's eyes flickered. He did not say anything else. He still had doubts about how his 4 subordinates were killed. He knew Lei Xiong's strength very well. Lei Ba and Lei Long were 2 intermediate law enforcers, but they were still killed. This matter was obviously not simple. According to the rumors, Lin Feng killed them alone. It was really hard to believe. However, as Lu Yibi said, Lin Feng was the only one who went to the ancient Feng clan. Given Feng Chao's character, he will definitely send someone to protect this little bastard, Qi Tong said inwardly. Qi Tong said inwardly, but it's not enough to send out a sage king. Now, it seems that the little bastard escaped with his life in the battle with Lei Xiong and the other 2, but he has no one to protect him. Therefore, he hurriedly went to the ancient Feng clan to prepare for his safety. Otherwise, why would I not go earlier or later? Why would I go now of all times? Most likely. Qi Tong's eyes flickered. He quickly deduced the whole matter. His deduction was not wrong. The ancient Feng clan did send Feng Ming over. However, Qi Tong did not expect that Feng Ming had already been killed in the battle with Lei Long. In fact, the ancient Feng clan did not know that Lin Feng was on the wanted list of the temple. Otherwise, they would not only send Feng Ming. In fact, with Qi Tong's intelligence, he could completely guess another possibility. However, he was unwilling to admit it. "Whether you are a dragon or a snake, we will know after a test. If you really have the strength of a saint king, I will give in to you. But if you don't..." Qi Tong stood on top of the teleportation array and moved his fingers lightly. In an instant, a white light flashed and he disappeared without a trace. Whoosh! Qi Tong appeared. His eyes flickered with a red light as he slowly sensed the surrounding environment. Lin Feng had left less than half an hour ago. There were usually few people here, so there were still some remnants of his aura. An ordinary warrior would not be able to sense it, but he was Qi Tong. He had the top-notch Qi Huang eyes. Smack! Qi Tong's eyes lit up, and a cold smile appeared on his face. Judging from the fluctuations of the astral energy, he should be an advanced saint. As expected, the other possibility is that I am overthinking. If Lin Feng were here, he would be extremely shocked. Qi Tong had accurately guessed his strength based on the clues. It was quite terrifying. If you hide, you may have a chance of survival. But if you enter this place... Qi Tong clenched his fist, and a thick flame appeared all over his body. You will be a turtle in a jar. Only death awaits you. In an instant, swoosh! Qi Tong moved as fast as lightning. His Qi Huang eyes were shining brightly. He had absolute confidence that he could kill Lin Feng. That's it. Lin Feng's eyes lit up. After traveling for half an hour, he quickly sensed many auras. 20, 50, 100. Lin Feng was slightly shocked. He sensed that there was an ancient clan in front of him. There were not many people, only a few hundred of them. However, he was not shocked by the number of people. After all, he had seen the sorcerer race before. It was normal for there to be dozens or hundreds of them. The sorcerer race and the ancient race could not be compared to the human race. What he was shocked by was the strength of the ancient race. It was quite terrifying. There are less than 300 of them, but more than half of them are star lords or star domain saints. 3 saint-level existences. Lin Feng was shocked. Although he could not sense any sage kings, there were 3 saint-level existences. What an exaggerated ratio! This should be a small clan, Lin Feng thought to himself. The ratio of saint-level existences is more than 1%. If the ancient race's population is calculated as 1%, it was hard to estimate. Lin Feng's heart skipped a beat. He had guessed that the ancient race was strong, but he did not expect them to be this strong. No wonder they had so few people, but they were much stronger than the human race. Quality was much more important than quantity. He could imagine that the ancient race's saint-level existences were many times stronger than the human race. The sorcerer race is even stronger. Lin Feng's eyes narrowed slightly. His estimation of the sorcerer race's strength became clearer. The more saint-level existences there were, the more saint-level existences there were. Moreover, the ancient race and the sorcerer race's aptitude was obviously higher than the human race's. No wonder the human race has always been in a weak position, Lin Feng said softly in his heart. However, seeing was believing. Now, he completely understood. Although he had only sensed one clan, he was able to tell everything. There was no need to doubt the strength of the ancient clan. In the Dou Ling world, the strong would always be respected. Lin Feng pursed his lips. At this moment, he felt more deeply about the responsibility and pressure on him. Let's leave first. Lin Feng heaved a sigh of relief. He did not have any good ideas. He could think about the human race in the future. For now, it was more important to find out the location of the ancient race and find out the mystery of his identity. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Moving as fast as lightning, Lin Feng quickly approached. At a glance, he could see rows of houses that looked like stone castles. Many ancient race experts also felt his aura and looked around curiously. Lin Feng smiled and slowed down. Just as he was about to dive down, suddenly, bang! Lin Feng's heart skipped a beat, and his expression changed instantly. A terrifying and powerful aura came from behind at an extremely fast speed. It was suffocating. A strong murderous intent spread rapidly and covered the entire area. The terrifying aura was far stronger than any saint-level expert he had ever seen. Who was it? Lin Feng clenched his fists and his eyes shone brightly. He could feel that the person's aura was firmly locked on him. It was obvious that he had come prepared. His target was pointed at him. Chapter 1182. He was a real expert. Lin Feng floated in the air with a stern look in his eyes. The strength of the newcomer was extraordinary. Just the pressure of his soul had aroused his fighting spirit. At this moment, 3 figures flew out from the ancient clan. They flashed rapidly with a strong aura of fire. 3 streaks of fiery red light appeared. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. They were 3 red-clothed sages. They were wearing the same clothes, and their foreheads were shining with the light of star seals. 2 low-level sages and 1 mid-level sages occupied 3 directions tacitly. They were like turtles in a jar. However, they looked serious and slightly fearful. Given the ancient clan's outstanding ability to sense auras, they could sense that Lin Feng was not simple. They're here. Lin Feng's eyes flickered slightly. In fact, he did not take these 3 red-clothed sages seriously at all. Perhaps they were very strong to ordinary human sages, but to him, they were nothing. The real enemy was the terrifying one in front of him. His oppressive aura shrouded him deeply. His strength was extraordinary. Whoosh! The fire was dazzling with a red glow. In front of him, a figure slowly appeared. A pair of red eyes stared deeply at him. Fire Element Peak Sage. He was definitely one of the top existences in the human world. They looked at each other and sized each other up. Lin Feng glanced at the resolute face. Soon, his eyes landed on the dragon head ring on the red-clothed man's left hand. His expression changed slightly. Law enforcers of the ancient clan? Lin Feng was slightly shocked. He immediately understood. The first time, they sent Dian Ho alone. The second time, they sent 3 powerful experts, including high-level law enforcers. And now, it was the third time. Greetings, law enforcer. The 3 red-clothed sages said in unison. They bowed respectfully. In the ancient clan, the Divine Hall had a very high status. Especially for ordinary clans, it was sacred and inviolable. Qi Tong's arrival was quickly recognized. Law enforcer? Lin Feng's heart skipped a beat. Judging from the name, they were more powerful than the high-level law enforcers. As a matter of fact, it was not hard to guess that the lightning dragon who came to kill him the first time was the weakest. The law enforcers who came to kill him the second time were already very strong, and there were as many as 3 of them. The third time would not be worse than the second time. Most importantly, there was only one person this time. It was easy to imagine how powerful the other party was, especially Lin Feng stared at the pair of red eyes. They were standing opposite each other, and it felt like they had met their match. His eyes had never encountered such a powerful enemy before. The red eye in front of him was on the same level as his starry sky pupils and starry sky pupils. That was the feeling of a top-notch pupil. Step down. Qi Tong's voice was cold as he waved his hand. The 3 red-clothed saints bowed their heads and left without saying another word. With their strength, they couldn't help at all. In fact, the law enforcer didn't need their help at all. The strong had their own pride. You are Lin Feng? Qi Tong asked in a deep voice. Yes. Lin Feng glanced at the dragon head ring and said indifferently, You are also a member of the Divine Hall. The Divine Hall of the ancient tribe was famous in the ancient tribe, and the dragon head ring was their token. They had a very high status in the ancient tribe. This wasn't a secret among the saints in the human world. He had known about it long before he entered the ancient southern region. Law enforcer of the Divine Hall, Qi Tong. Qi Tong's voice was calm, but it revealed a sense of pride and confidence. Qi Tong didn't hide his identity at all. To Qi Tong, this was a kind of pride. They are your subordinates? Lin Feng asked indifferently. Although he didn't say it explicitly, if they were really sent by Qi Tong, he would naturally understand what he meant. Qi Tong's eyes changed slightly, but he didn't answer. Instead, he asked, How did they die? I killed them. Lin Feng didn't hide it and said truthfully. However, this caused Qi Tong's lips to curl into a cold smile. Do you think that I will believe your words and retreat in the face of difficulties? You are too naive. Qi Tong's eyes flashed with fiery light, shooting out like sharp arrows. Today you will die without a doubt. Is that so? Lin Feng smiled indifferently. Let's see who will die. There was no need to explain or say anything else. Everything was a foregone conclusion. Lin Feng was very clear that today's battle was unavoidable. Although he didn't know the exact reason, the Divine Hall's intention to kill him couldn't be clearer. They had repeatedly sent experts to kill him, and they wouldn't give up until they achieved their goal. Starting from his father, this was destined to be a battle to the death. As for him, he would never give in. Misty Cloud Step. Lin Feng shouted, and his astral source power instantly bloomed. There was no other possibility. He could only fight to the end. Swoosh. His speed was extremely fast, as if he had pierced through space. Under the shocked gazes of the 3 saints, Lin Feng attacked even faster than Qi Tong. He took the most direct first step. Fight! Mystery, sky of blazing flames. Qi Tong shouted. In an instant, the sky was filled with blood-red light, and extremely dense fire elements gathered from all directions. As Qi Tong's eyes lit up, a terrifying aura mixed with astral source power was released. Clusters of flames seemed to be endowed with life as they attacked Lin Feng. Very fast. The speed was extremely fast. It was as if Chi Tong didn't need to move at all. The flames seemed to belong to him, and his sensitivity was terrifying. Lin Feng's eyes turned cold, and the changes in space caused the misty cloud steps to erupt with extraordinary speed. However, Chi Tong seemed to have predicted his first step. All the flames surrounded him, and he felt as if he could predict the future. It was extremely uncomfortable. Even if his speed was extremely fast, even if his step was extremely decisive. But, mystery, Garuda's real body. Lin Feng gritted his teeth. In an instant, a blurry figure sitting cross-legged in the flames appeared in his mind. An intense killing intent flashed, and an extremely dense aura of ruthlessness flashed. Like a mirror, the figure merged with him in an instant. Together with his sensitivity to the flames and extreme control of the flames, his body was further strengthened. But. His muscles expanded as if he was wearing a layer of battle armor. Chi Tong's attack was accompanied by the crimson light in his eyes as he retreated unhurriedly, widening the distance. This was the most commonly used and practical battle tactic of a heavenly spirit master. Trying to escape? Lin Feng released the flames in his hands. He ignored the pincer attack of the flames around him and rushed forward rapidly. The devouring flames, together with Garuda's real body, were used at an extremely fast speed. Like the sound of firecrackers, they forcefully broke open a path. In terms of flames, he was unafraid of those of the same level. Even if Chi Tong's astral source power was stronger than his, he had an absolute advantage in terms of the quality of his flames. Furthermore, the devouring flames were the nemesis of other flames. Oh! Chi Tong was slightly surprised. This was the first time he had seen Lin Feng's true strength. Lin Feng's words and calm expression appeared in his mind. Chi Tong's eyes glowed. This time, he was truly certain of Lin Feng's strength. What he said just now was not false. It seems like Lei Xiong and the rest really died in his hands. One exchange was enough to tell whether he was a dragon or a snake. Putting away his contempt, Chi Tong gathered his strength once more. With the strength of a peak saint, coupled with his scarlet brilliance eyes, Chi Tong was a true powerhouse who could rank in the top 3 even among the saints of the ancient races, let alone the human world. 80% of my strength is enough to kill him. Chi Tong's eyes shone brightly. That red glow was extremely demonic. Ghost fire demonic realm. Chi Tong's voice was cold. What was going on? Lin Feng was deeply shocked. Chi Tong seemed to have predicted his every step and action. It felt as if there was a pair of invisible hands controlling him. Chi Tong seemed to be standing in the clouds and looking down on everything. He had just broken through the layers of flames in the sky, but now he was in a realm of demonic flames. With the strength of his devouring flames, it was not difficult to break through. But there was no end to it. It was as if he had fallen into an endless cycle. He broke through one layer, then another, and another layer of obstacles. This human is really strong. He even made the law enforcement leader use the ghost fire demonic realm. It's a pity that he has met the law enforcement leader, who is ranked 3rd. Only death awaits him. That's right. The law enforcement leader's Chi Huang eyes are not to be trifled with. It's only a matter of time before he is killed. The 3 saints stood below and watched the battle. Their expressions were calm as they whispered to each other. They were not worried at all. In their opinion, it was too easy for the law enforcement leader, Chi Tong, to kill a mere human. Boom, boom, boom. Lin Feng's hands were burning. In the Jialua true body state, his fire sensitivity and explosive power were both enhanced. However, facing Chi Tong, who had inherited the blood of a divine beast and was proficient in fire-type attacks, his consumption of power was within his calculations. The danger level had increased exponentially. Why are my actions all within his expectations? What is going on? Lin Feng frowned and pondered as he resisted the erosion of the demonic fire. Compared to the layers of heavenly fire earlier, this demonic fire attack was even more terrifying. Layer after layer, it was like a continuous wave. Even if he charged straight ahead, he felt as if there were endless layers of flames in front of him. It was as if he had entered a maze and had lost his sense of direction. What is this? What is it? Lin Feng's expression was grave as he fell into a bitter battle. Indeed, it was as he had expected. Qi Tong was a genuine expert who was on par with him in terms of strength. If he wanted to defeat him, he had to break this stalemate and directly threaten him. This was something that any heavenly spirit master had to do. Close in. The key now was how to disrupt his rhythm and destroy this annoying feeling of control. Boom. Once again, the flames burned fiercely. Lin Feng's eyes brightened rapidly. Yes, this is the feeling. That feeling of being high above and looking down on him came from that red light. That red light was not inferior to him in the slightest. Top-tier eyes. Break it. Lin Feng's eyes shone brightly. 2 more chapters. Updated at midnight. Chapter 1183. A Spear Against a Spear. Since he had found the reason, there was no need to waste any more time. No one knew better than Lin Feng how powerful the special eyes were, especially the top-tier ones. This was because the vast star eyes and vast star eyes already possessed heaven-defying abilities. He did not know the other abilities of Qi Tong's top-tier eyes, but he was sure of one thing. The degree of assistance it provided in battle was even greater than his own 2 eyes. Just the ability to predict the enemy's movements was already extremely terrifying, and Qi Tong had mastered this ability to the point of perfection. Perhaps there were other ways, but there was no time to think about it. In the blink of an eye, his eyes changed rapidly in his own state. After making up his mind, Lin Feng's expression turned serious. In his mind, there seemed to be a high-pitched chirping bird flying proudly. The blood-red eyes gathered in his eyes, and at this moment, they seemed to overlap. The light in his eyes was like a crack in the sky, and an extremely dense power, accompanied by an austere aura, completely erupted. After reaching 70% Saint, this was the first time the ability, bestowed by his eyes, was used. Vermilion Bird Attack, 10%. Lin Feng shouted. In an instant, the soul power in his mind poured out like a tide and gathered to form a fiery red bird that seemed to fly out from his eyes. It was like an illusion, but also transparent. It did not seem to be a real power, but it was extremely terrifying. It was formless, but extremely terrifying power. This was the attack method of a true heavenly soul master, using the purest soul power to attack. It was extremely dangerous. 10% was already an extremely powerful soul bestowment. That day in the Yin residence, the furious Lin Feng had only used 1% of his power, and it had directly killed Yin Tsung along with his soul. Of course, Yin Tsung's strength could not be compared to Qi Tong's, but this 10% vermilion bird attack was enough to destroy a saint's soul. This was Lin Feng's true strength. The 3 red-robed saints were shocked. They were all celestial spiritual masters, and they all cultivated the life spirit. They could feel the terrifying power of Lin Feng's soul attack. In fact, everyone in the Douling world was afraid of heavenly soul masters, but heavenly soul masters were too rare, especially saint-level heavenly soul masters. They were almost extinct. This was because a heavenly soul master's attack was too sharp. It was like a double-edged sword. The stronger the attack, the greater the damage. The repeated soul attacks were like using a piece of jade to smash against a rock. Perhaps one could win, but every time the jade was hit, the soul would be damaged to varying degrees. Heavenly soul masters were like this. But what the 3 of them didn't know was that Lin Feng's vermilion bird assault didn't have any side effects. It was a completely independent attack. With the independence of the soul, even if the attack failed, even if there was a strong backlash, it would not cause any harm to the martial artist. The power of the attack would be greatly reduced, but at the same time, the degree of injury would also be greatly reduced. There was a subtle balance between the attacks of heavenly soul masters. Quick, extremely fast. The attack of a heavenly soul master was basically unavoidable, because it was a direct attack on the soul. You've got guts. Qi Tong's eyes were shining brightly. He had already sensed Lin Feng's attack the moment it happened. He might be able to dodge it, but soul attacks were different from physical attacks. Even if he could dodge it for a moment, he wouldn't be able to dodge it again. Unless he chose to dodge and escape. But that was impossible. If Lin Feng dared to attack, he would dare to receive it. Scarlet brilliance eyes, blood brilliance. Qi Tong roared, and the light in his eyes shot out. An eye for an eye, an eye for an eye. If it wasn't necessary, Qi Tong wasn't willing to let his body become a battlefield. He might be able to gain a little advantage, but the destruction of the battlefield would be very troublesome. Even if it was just a little, it would cause great damage to his strength. Moreover, the life soul focused on offense, while the mortal soul focused on defense. Using the life soul to defend wasn't a wise decision. Qi Tong had absolute confidence in his scarlet brilliance eyes. This was the reason why he was ranked third among all the saints of the ancient race. Top-tier eye, level 8. Boom! It was as if lightning had struck the earth. It was a clash of the purest and most extreme energies. The three red-robed saints widened their eyes and held their breaths as they watched this unforgettable battle. In the void, Lin Feng and Qi Tong stood in the distance. In the middle of the battlefield, a fiery red sparrow and a blood-red illusory light instantly clashed. The invisible power exploded violently with a visible force. Bang! The three red-robed saints only felt their faces turn deathly pale. Cries of alarm rang in their ears, buzzing. Their souls were severely impacted. The three of them vomited blood and staggered back. Even the ordinary Star Lords and Cosmic Realm State Saints in the distance were affected. Many of the stronger ones fell to the ground while foaming at the mouth. The weaker ones were bleeding from their orifices and were severely injured. A battle between souls was definitely not ordinary. If the surroundings were already in such a state, what more could be said of the two parties involved in the battle? Qi Tong's face was ashen as he suffered a violent impact. He was different from Lin Feng. His scarlet brilliance attack was connected to his soul, so he suffered a great backlash. Blood seeped out of the corner of his mouth, but Qi Tong was confident. That was because he had completely destroyed Lin Feng's attack in the previous clash. However, Lin Feng was like a ferocious tiger that had been released from its cage, flying over at an extremely fast speed. The energy in the surrounding space fluctuated violently. Qi Tong widened his eyes and looked at Lin Feng, who was expressionless and didn't seem to have weakened at all. He was completely caught off guard. How was that possible? How can he not be injured at all? Qi Tong was shocked. He felt as if he had been stabbed with a knife. Blood kept seeping out. He had clearly defeated Lin Feng. Reaction force. Even though the vermilion bird attack had been broken, the backlash didn't increase at all. Qi Tong naturally didn't know that the backlash had already been borne by his clansmen. Although Lin Feng was also affected, the weak impact was like a tickle to the high-level saint-level Lin Feng. It couldn't cause him any harm at all. Just a moment passed, but to Lin Feng, it was an excellent opportunity. Illusion, will-o'-the-wisp realm. Lin Feng's eyes lit up. Qi Tong woke up faster than he had imagined, but he still couldn't get close to him. In that case, he decided to sprinkle salt on his wound. His eyes lit up and the flames in his hands formed a power that disturbed his mind. It was like a form of confusion. That was one of his ultimate moves. It was a star technique that was mixed with ocular techniques. To Qi Tong, such an attack wouldn't have had any effect. However, times had changed. Chi Tong had just recovered from the vermilion bird attack, and was extremely weak. Furthermore, he was in a defenseless state. How could he not fall for it? Oh no! Chi Tong's expression changed. He reacted instantly. Chi Huang's eyes were resistant to such attacks, and his mental stability was even more resolute. Break! Chi Tong clenched his fist. But in an instant, there was a sea of flames in front of him. As a fire elemental martial artist, he could naturally sense how powerful the flames in front of him were. They were condensed with powerful fire elemental energy. The astral energy also increased the power of the flames to the extreme. Chi Tong's expression changed drastically. He gritted his teeth. He was already in a desperate situation. A ray of white light appeared in his hands. A round ball of light shone with a myriad of colors. Round ball, explode. Chi Tong's expression was ferocious. He instantly detonated the ball of light. The strength of the Khanate treasure had saved his life. Rumble! The round ball of light exploded, and the shock waves spread in all directions. The aboriginals who had just been freed from Soul's attack once again suffered a blow to their bodies. To the aboriginals whose bodies were not considered strong, this kind of terrifying explosion was enough to make them suffer. Even those 3 red-clothed saints were now in tatters, their star armors dim. They cursed in their hearts, regretting that they had been too close. Now they had been caught in the crossfire. But fortunately, they had not suffered any fatal injuries. But what about the 2 people in the center of the round ball's explosion? Blood seeped from the corner of his mouth. Chi Tong's chest rapidly rose and fell. Even if he was a peak saint, his body far stronger than an ordinary saint's, this kind of extreme explosion still injured him considerably. But fortunately, he was the master of the round ball. He possessed immunity to 99% of the attack, so he was not seriously injured. Otherwise, there would be great trouble. He had never used this trump card before because this was the round ball's 3rd ability, and also its strongest life-saving ability. In case it was used, it would explode and be destroyed. That was a white-grade Earth-rank astral treasure. Now it had been destroyed. Lin Feng, I want you to fall into the 18 layers of hell. Chi Tong's expression was as malevolent as a devil's. He gnashed his teeth. At this moment, his hatred for Lin Feng had already reached its peak. He wished he could tear him into pieces, kill him 1,000 times, 10,000 times. This little bastard, not only did he make him lose face in front of the divine envoy, this time, he was seriously injured. It was not a physical injury, but a mental one. What he lost was not only the innate treasure round ball. His soul also needed some time to recover. This would bring about a huge change in the upcoming 3rd war of the liches and demons. It was very likely that this injury was enough to kill him. He wanted to kill Lin Feng to vent his anger. Let's see how you die this time. Chi Tong's eyes were filled with shock. From his senses, he could sense that the distant Lin Feng seemed to be injured. More importantly, the distance between the 2 had increased once again. To a heaven spirit master, this was the most important thing. But huh? Chi Tong was suddenly startled. Bang! Bang! His heartbeat was extremely fast. It was a sign of extreme danger. Chi Tong widened his eyes. In that instant, he sensed a terrifying aura swiftly attacking him from behind. That energy, which had been condensed to the limit, was accompanied by a strong murderous intent. At a speed that he could not dodge, it struck down from the sky like a bolt of lightning. Whoosh! He turned around abruptly. Chi Tong's eyes flashed with extreme disbelief. Lin Feng! He could not believe his eyes. That rapidly approaching figure had just been blasted away and was extremely far away from him. Lin Feng! Chapter 1184. Die. A cold voice seemed to come from hell. Purple light pierced through the sky, and the surging power drove the purple crystal spear. Lin Feng appeared like a ghost, and Qi Tong could not resist at all. Explosive flames condensed, as if he was powerless at the end of the road. Lin Feng no longer had that soul-stirring power in his eyes, but the awe-inspiring lightning slaughter armor made him look like a god. The horn on his forehead flashed with lightning, and it combined perfectly with the purple crystal spear. The lightning was extremely dazzling. At this moment, there was no power that could stop this attack. Qi. Lin Feng's face was calm and cold as he penetrated all defenses. Qi Tong's eyes flashed with shock, disbelief, and all kinds of complicated expressions. But in an instant, with a loud explosion, he disappeared into thin air. Bang! Everything was over. The flames were still lingering in the air. The dense killing intent formed a mist that slowly dissipated. The three red-clothed saints looked at the battle in the sky that had already ended. They had witnessed the death of the enforcer Qi Tong with their own eyes. It was as if a bolt from the blue had struck their minds, and they turned to stone. Did they see wrongly? The enforcer Qi Tong, who was ranked third among all the saints of the ancient race, was just dead? Killed by a human? This was unheard of, and it was a great humiliation. It was not only a humiliation for the Divine Hall, but also for the ancient race. They had been slapped in the face in the ancient race's territory. The three red-clothed saints looked up at the purple light. It seemed different from when they first saw it, but it was still as terrifying and mysterious. It was as if they were looking at an unreachable peak. Who on earth was this human warrior named Lin Feng? I really can't underestimate him. They are all at the peak of the saint level, but the difference between the ancient race and the human race is too great. They are not on the same level at all. Lin Feng murmured, his eyes flickering. After fighting, one would know the difference. The ancient race and the sorcerer race were far superior to the human race. This was an indisputable fact. The difference in talent was the decisive factor. His strength was enough to sweep away all the human saint-level pinnacle powerhouses, but he was not invincible here. Lin Feng let out a long breath and put away his amethyst spear. This wasn't Qi Tong's main body, but his doppelganger. The lightning slaughter armor on Qi Tong's body was enough to explain everything. The explosion of the round bead had caused Qi Tong's main body to suffer heavy injuries. No matter how fast Qi Tong's reaction was, Qi Tong was too cunning. In order to get close to him, she did not expect him to have such a trump card. Fortunately, the body of his original body was strong enough. Although he was injured, the injury was not serious. It would not take long for him to recover. If he did not have a doppelganger this time, he would have fallen into a bitter battle. Especially after the explosion, the distance between them had increased once again. It would not be so easy to get close to Qi Tong again. After all, he was already familiar with his own attacks. Very powerful. Lin Feng's eyes flickered. Although he had defeated Qi Tong, he couldn't bring himself to be happy, because the enemies would appear one after another. The first time, it was the lightning slaughter. The second time, it was the senior enforcer. And this time, it was the head enforcer. What about the next time? Given the reputation and methods of the ancient race, they would not let him go since the beginning. Next time, would he still win? Pursing his lips, Lin Feng felt a little worried. This had already become an imminent danger. He could completely imagine how troublesome his future situation would be. If the next opponent was a saint-level expert of the ancient race, he would not be able to resist even if he used all his skills. There was a huge gap between the saint level and the saint level. I'll take it one step at a time. Even if I return to the human world, the emissaries of the ancient race will still come after me. I will implicate my clansmen. I can't possibly return to the kingdom of Maru and live in seclusion, right? Lin Feng felt helpless as his mind was filled with complicated thoughts. After all, there were too many things he had to do. Now that he had embarked on this path, there was no turning back. Whoosh! With a flash of his figure, Lin Feng landed on the ground. When the aura landed, the three red-clothed saints panicked. By the time they regained their senses, this strange human with horns on his head had already appeared in front of them. The battle just now and the spear that killed the head enforcer, Chi Tong, appeared in their minds. The three of them were terrified. He was too strong. So what if he was a human? His strength would not be weakened by his race. As long as this human wanted to, he could kill the three of them effortlessly. This was because his aura did not decrease at all, and there were no injuries on his body. He had won the battle with the head enforcer, Chi Tong. Even the head enforcer, who was at the peak of the saint level and ranked third among the ancient race's saints, was killed. Not to mention the three of them. Tell me the way to the ancient Phoenix clan, and I will not kill you. Lin Feng's eyes flashed, and his voice was extremely cold. Looking at the three ancient race saints in front of him, he could see the fear and trembling in their hearts. It was written all over their faces. Originally, he wanted to ask for directions, but it was obviously impossible. Ancient Phoenix clan? The expressions of the three red-clothed saints changed slightly. The leader hesitated and said with fear, "Why are you asking this?" "You don't need to know," Lin Feng replied indifferently. "Tell me, and I will leave immediately." There was a faint threat in his words. He could see the unfriendliness shown by the three red-clothed saints. Even if he asked nicely, there would be no result. In fact, according to Lady Nangong, the ancient race was full of contempt and disdain for the human race. Although he did not feel this way now, it was replaced by another emotion. Hostility. Deep hostility. However, he could understand that because he had just killed the head enforcer, Chi Tong, the divine temple had a very high status and prestige among the ancient race. The three red-robed saints looked at each other and finally came to a decision. "Kill us if you want. We won't tell you," the leading red-clothed saint said in a deep voice. "It's absolutely impossible for us to betray our fellow human race." Although the other red-clothed saint's expression was ugly, he still spoke righteously. "That's right. We, the ancient race, are not afraid of death." The three of them said the same thing without any disagreement. It was obvious that they were prepared to sacrifice themselves. Lin Feng frowned slightly. The three of them spoke with a firm expression. Although there was fear in their eyes, they were unafraid of death. Compared to the human race who liked to fight and kill each other, this trait of the ancient race was admirable. Even if they were not related by blood, they would never betray their fellow human race. This was because the same blood flowed in their bodies, and they had their own pride. "What if I say that I have no ill intentions?" Lin Feng's eyes flickered. The three of them looked at each other, and the leader sneered. "Don't pretend. Do you think we don't know how cunning you humans are? That's right. Don't think that you can fool us. If you want to kill us, just kill us. Don't be so long-winded. There are no cowards among the ancient race." Looking at the three of them, Lin Feng was full of helplessness. There were two paths in front of him. The first was to kill them and ask the other clansmen. However, he would still be rejected. The pride of the ancient race was not arrogance due to their strength. It was the pride of their character and the nobility of their bloodline. As for the second path, it doesn't matter if you believe me or not. I have no ill intentions, Lin Feng said calmly. Since you don't want to tell me, I won't force you. I admire your integrity. I take back what I said just now. Goodbye. Looking at the three of them, Lin Feng smiled. Then, he stood up and left. He did not have the habit of killing the innocent, and he did not have any deep hatred for the three red-clothed saints. He did not want to kill them. So what if he killed them all? Would he be able to find out the location of the ancient Feng clan? Even if he found out, would it be correct? He would leave it to fate. Even if he could not find the location here, it did not mean that he could not find it. There would be plenty of opportunities. Swish! Lin Feng soared through the air, instantly disappearing into the distance. The three red-clothed saints looked at each other in confusion. They did not know what was going on. In the shrine of the ancient clan. It was the spiritual symbol of the ancient clan. It had great prestige in the ancient clan, and its status was second only to the 7 ancient gods of the ancient clan. Divine Envoy, the traitor of the Thunder Mongol clan has been caught. Divine Envoy, it is suspected that there is a member of the Sorcerer clan. In the hall, a white-haired youth wearing a one-eyed eye patch was sitting on the throne with his chin in his hand. He was listening to the reports. Below him, there were several experts of the ancient clan who were wearing uniforms. They were reporting to him. As law enforcers, they had many things to do. Suddenly, bang! There was an explosion. It was the expert from the Thunder Dragon clan who was reporting. He was stunned. The white-haired youth stretched out his left hand, which flashed with a terrifying light. One of the 3 star diamonds above him had completely shattered, as if it had lost some kind of power. Divine Envoy, this is. The expert from the Thunder Dragon clan was extremely shocked. The law enforcer of the first team, Chi Tong. The white-haired youth's expression was solemn and cold. His eyes were as terrifying as frost, and the entire hall seemed to be frozen. All the experts of the ancient clan kept quiet out of fear. They felt their hair stand on end. Although the Divine Envoy was not angry, his aura was enough to tell everything. The Divine Envoy was furious. I am willing to follow up on this mission and avenge Chi Tong. The expert from the Thunder Dragon clan knelt on one knee and said loudly. He was the chief enforcer of the 2nd Brigade under the command of God Emissary Bai Raymond. Chi Tong was killed even with his strength. Do you think you can accomplish it? The white-haired youth, Lei Meng, glanced at him coldly. Although he did not say anything, Lei Meng did not dare to say anything. This was because what he said was the truth. He was too eager to obtain credit and had completely forgotten about this matter. However, who killed Chi Tong? Lei Meng was filled with doubts. Given Chi Tong's strength, the person who wanted to kill him was at least a sage king. Do your job well. The white-haired young man waved his hand and stood up calmly. His seemingly thin body carried a shocking strength, especially that blindfold that covered his eyes. It was as if it contained a devil, causing people to tremble with fear. I will follow up on this matter personally. I want to see who dares to challenge the authority of the ancient clan. You are courting death. Chapter 1185. Southern Ancient Region. Whoosh! A figure was flying in the air. He was wearing a black martial attire and had a powerful aura. However, his expression was serious. Lin Feng's eyes kept flashing. He pursed his lips and looked worried. He was obviously troubled. 3rd failure. He didn't know. I can't use force or soft methods, Lin Feng thought. He felt a headache coming on. It was easy for him to find an ancient clan. However, he was like a headless fly when it came to finding the ancient Sao Feng clan. He had no direction at all. What should he do? He didn't have time to waste. In a few months, he would have to return to the southern region to participate in the Emperor competition. Since he had promised the heavenly secret Sacred Lord and Emperor Shun, he wouldn't go back on his word. He couldn't afford to lose this opportunity to become an emperor. Because I'm a human? Lin Feng smiled. The ancient clans looked down on humans. He knew this very well. According to Lady Nangong, the ancient clans didn't just look down on humans. They also looked down on the sorcerer race and the Yao race. They were too arrogant. They thought they had the strongest bloodline and looked down on other races. In terms of pride, no other race could compare to the ancient clans. But how do they know I'm a human? Lin Feng's eyes twinkled as he felt suspicious. He also had half the ancient bloodline. Moreover, he hid his aura every time he asked for directions. No matter how sensitive the ancient clans were, ordinary saints shouldn't be able to sense his aura. It would be difficult to prove that he was a human just by looking at his aura. Lin Feng nodded. He was deep in thought. After all, humans and the ancient clans had similar figures and characteristics. Wait. Ta! Lin Feng instantly stopped and smiled bitterly. He had forgotten one thing. Although I hid my aura, my strength can't lie. Lin Feng clenched his fist. Although the ancient clan's saints couldn't tell how strong he was, they could tell if he was an ancient by looking at the strength of his body and the emphasis of his cultivation. His clone was from the Battle God clan. The ancient clans were all from the Heavenly God clan. The fourth ancient clan. With bright eyes, Lin Feng's figure blurred for a moment, and he instantly changed from his avatar state to his main body state. Compared to his doppelganger, his main body had dense fire elemental senses. It was as if he walked the path of a heavenly god. Furthermore, his aura was concealed, making it difficult for ordinary ancient race experts to discover him. Fortunately, the human language is the same as the Aboriginals' language. Lin Feng pondered. The demon race and the sorcerer race spoke different languages. Only the humans and the ancients spoke the same language. It was probably because the humans looked similar to the ancients, and the ancestors of the humans worshipped the ancients. That was why the ancients used the ancients' language. It was because the ancients would not be willing to speak the same language as the humans. It's right in front. Lin Feng's eyes lit up. The auras in front of him were extremely clear. The stone castle-like building was very simple and unadorned, but it gave off a feeling of returning to simplicity. Hopefully, I can get away with it, Lin Feng said to himself. Whoosh! Whoosh! Before Lin Feng arrived, there were already a few auras rapidly approaching. 2 middle-level and 3 beginner-level saints. Lin Feng quickly determined. They are quite alert. Although he had concealed his aura, his strength was still present. Ordinary ancient martial art practitioners might not be able to sense it, but the ancient race experts could definitely sense the threat. The senses of a saint were very strong, especially those who cultivated the Heavenly God clan. Whoosh! Whoosh! 2 dark red figures wearing dragon robes arrived first. Lin Feng looked over. They were 2 elderly people with extraordinary auras. The star seals on their foreheads were shining brightly. They were also sizing him up. At the same time, whoosh! 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 The other 3 figures also arrived quickly. After all, there was a difference in strength between a middle-level saint and a beginner-level saint. Who are you? The slightly taller red-robed elder was the first to speak. It was obvious that he had the highest status. In an instant, Lin Feng's eyes flashed as he entered his own state. The air seemed to condense in an instant. The power of the vast star pupil and vast star pupil made everyone's expression change. The 3 beginner-level saints especially felt immense pressure. In the Douling world, strength was the most important thing. Lin Feng's expression was calm. However, because he had concealed his aura, he had no choice but to show his strength. Sometimes, intimidation and toughness were necessary. How do I get to the ancient Feng clan? Lin Feng asked in a low voice. He did not answer the red-robed elder's question. Instead, he went straight to the point. Although half of the blood of the ancient race flowed in his body, the other half was still human. He was probably more hated by the ancient race than ordinary humans. This could be seen from the way the ancient tribe Divine Palace treated him. With the pride of the ancient race, they would never allow themselves to have illicit relations with humans. To them, having offspring was the greatest humiliation. Where are you from? The other red-robed elder asked. His dark eyes were filled with doubt. However, he was still angry and did not dare to offend Lin Feng too much. Lin Feng's clear eyes landed on the faces of the 2 elders. Then, he glanced at the 3 beginner-level saints and sighed in his heart. The other party was obviously more cautious than he had imagined. It seemed that it would be difficult to bluff his way out of this. Threats were useless against the ancient race. Could he lie to them and say that he was from the ancient race? However, he knew nothing about the ancient race. If he tried to lie, it would only make things worse. Once he was questioned, he would be rendered speechless. These old and experienced ancient race saints were not easy to deal with. Not only were the ancient race more talented than humans, but their average intelligence was also higher than humans. They were recognized as the most intelligent of the three human races. What should he do? Lin Feng's mind raced. As he felt the passage of time, the five of them became even more suspicious. He could not delay any longer. Got it! Lin Feng's eyes lit up. The scene of him meeting Qi Tong that day appeared in his mind. These ancient races were extremely respectful of the deity hall. The deity hall's influence was spread across the 7 ancient regions. Lin Feng's background was a mystery. Furthermore, he had evidence in his hands. Although he was overjoyed, Lin Feng's expression did not change. A light flashed in his hand, and a dragon head ring appeared. It was shining brightly. The dragon head was lofty and majestic, as if it had come alive. It gave off an aura of power and prestige. A token from the deity hall. Greetings, emissary. The 5 of them immediately bowed when they saw the dragon head ring. Although they did not know which race Lin Feng belonged to, the strength of his aura could not be fake. Moreover, the token of the ancient race emissary was genuine. I am carrying out a mission. Tell me the location of the ancient Feng clan immediately, shouted Lin Feng in a deep voice. His face was frosty. His arrogance and arrogance were mixed together with a hint of disdain. However, the 5 of them didn't dare to move. There was no need to use soft words. It would only make them more suspicious. Since he was pretending to be an emissary of the deity hall, he had to be as domineering as Qi Tong. As expected, the 5 of them did not suspect him at all. In fact, they did not dare to suspect him. Emissary, the ancient Feng clan is in the depths of the ancient regions. Head south in this direction. The red-robed elder quickly pointed out the direction. How could they interfere with the mission of the deity hall? To them, the deity hall was a high and mighty existence. Great success. Lin Feng left with a faint smile on his face. Although the process was a little complicated, he was very satisfied with the result. He had finally found the location of the ancient Feng clan. Soon, he would be able to meet his biological mother. He would be able to confirm his true identity. However, it was really a close call. Lin Feng smiled. His eyes flickered as he looked at the dragon head ring in his hand. There was a hint of hatred in his eyes. It was the ring that had harmed his family. His father's injuries were closely related to them. They had even tried to kill him several times. How could he tolerate this? The deity hall. One day, I will tear down this signboard. Lin Feng's eyes were cold and sharp. He did not have the strength now, but it did not mean that he could not destroy the signboard of the deity hall in the future. Swoosh! Lin Feng's body was as fast as lightning. His face was calm, but his heart was inexplicably uneasy. He felt uncomfortable all over. Looking around, he could see that the ancient southern region was much more desolate than he had imagined. Compared to the bustling human world, this place was like a real wilderness. Thump, thump, thump. Lin Feng's heart was beating fast. His expression changed. He had not felt this for a long time. Panic and shock. That was a kind of warning. This kind of intuition had saved him countless times, but now, it had appeared again. Combined with the uneasiness just now, that feeling was obviously not ordinary. What was going on? Looking around, there was nothing suspicious. However, that feeling was real and undeniable. His heart was about to jump out of his throat. Lin Feng's intuition was slightly pale. He felt as if he was touched by some strange force and bound. However, he could not feel anything. That kind of hair-raising and goosebumps made him feel extremely uncomfortable. His spine was cold. An unprecedented horror slowly rose from the bottom of his heart. With a pale face, Lin Feng looked around. His breathing became more and more rapid. His eyes were blurred as if he could only see blankness. He could not see the surrounding scenery clearly. It was as if he had lost himself. What was going on? What happened to me? Lin Feng kept calling as his chest heaved up and down. Are you looking for me? A faint voice seemed to come from the horizon. It was like a bell ringing beside his ear. Lin Feng was stunned. At this moment, time seemed to stop. Looking at the source of the voice, Lin Feng raised his head. In the distant sky, high above, a white figure emitting a cold aura was looking down at him. It was a white-haired young man. His aura was indescribable and terrifying. With his hands behind his back, he just stood there and looked at Lin Feng. Lin Feng could not move at all. Especially under the eye patch on his one eye, it was as if a demon was there. Chapter 1186. Uncontrollable Fear. It was not fear in his heart, but fear in his body. Lin Feng was deeply shocked. This was the ancient southern region, one of the hottest regions in the entire Douling world. However, ever since the white-haired youth appeared, there was only boundless coldness. The coldness penetrated deep into his bones and soul, making him shudder. He had never felt this way before. Ever since he became a saint, no one had ever given him such pressure. It was so oppressive that he could not breathe. Even people as strong as the heavenly secret Saint Lord and the human demon Saint Lord did not feel this way. The two Saint Lords of the human race were a level lower than the white-haired youth in front of him. Even if the white-haired youth did not use any techniques and just stood there quietly, he was already unable to move. However, no. Lin Feng's face was stern. Blood seeped out from the corner of his mouth, but his eyes shone brightly. He clenched his fists tightly. His expression was filled with unyielding determination as he stubbornly raised his head to look at the white-clothed youth. It was as if there was a flame bursting out from that extreme frost. Even though it was weak, it represented his fighting spirit and unwillingness. Even if he had to die, he did not want to die in a cowardly manner. This was the dignity of a martial artist. The white-haired youth's eyes brightened as though he was surprised. However, he soon returned to normal. Qi Tong, I have underestimated you, the white-haired youth said calmly. There was a hint of admiration in his calm voice. With his eyesight, he could naturally see Lin Feng's true strength. Just the fact that Lin Feng could break free from his eye technique meant that he was not an ordinary saint. Is that so? Lin Feng pursed his lips and asked, Who are you? He spoke slowly and in a questioning tone. However, Lin Feng's mind was filled with thoughts. He was like a machine working at its limit. He had to think of a way. The chances of him defeating the white-haired youth were close to zero. Even if he did not know his true strength, it was not that difficult for the white-haired youth to kill him. He was even stronger than the human demon Saint Lord. Right now, the only way out left for him was to find a way to escape. Only by escaping from this place would they have a chance of survival. If they fought head-on, they would only die. Lin Feng looked straight at the white-haired young man and the exquisite dragon-head ring on his left hand. It was obvious that he had a much higher status than Qi Tong. And it was the temple. He would not give up until he killed him. My name is Thrum, the third oracle. Tian spoke indifferently while the eye that was covered by the eye patch seemed to have been extinguished. However, his other eye flickered with an icy cold sheen, and it revealed a trace of killing intent. How is it? Have you found it? Lin Feng was slightly startled and his expression changed. A life-saving method. You said with a smile that was not a smile, but it caused Lin Feng to feel a chill down his spine. In front of this young man who was not much older than him, it was as if he was standing naked in front of him and was clearly seen through. Let's play a game. You extended 3 fingers. I'll give you 3 chances to attack. If you can hurt me with 3 attacks, then. You looked at Lin Feng and smiled indifferently. I'll let you live. How about it? Isn't it interesting? After a pause, Yu's eyes turned cold. Of course, you can choose not to accept it or run away with your tail between your legs. However, I guarantee that you won't be able to escape from me. Yu opened his palm and his eyes were filled with confidence. He was toying with him like a cat toying with a mouse. Lin Feng's heart sank to the bottom and his face turned pale. This feeling was very uncomfortable, but he knew that Yu was telling the truth. Yu definitely had the strength to kill him before he could escape, destroying his body and soul. He was all too familiar with this kind of confidence. I accept. Lin Feng's voice was hoarse, but he did not hesitate. Perhaps this feeling was so humiliating, but he had no other choice. This was the only way to survive. Your courage is commendable. Yu smiled indifferently. Don't worry. I mean what I say. Yu raised his head and said softly, Come. Yu's voice was filled with contempt and disdain. Yu's smile was extremely wanton and arrogant, but he had the ability to do so. With his hands behind his back, he looked like a high and mighty emperor, looking down on everyone. There's only one chance. Lin Feng's expression changed. He was very certain. The so-called 3 attacks actually meant that there was only one real chance. Whether it succeeded or not depended on his strongest attack. If he could not break through with his strongest attack, the other 2 attacks were even more impossible. The weakness of the Aboriginals is their physical strength. Even if he's a Saint King, his physical strength is at most on par with mine. But, raising his head, Lin Feng stared at Yu with a faint smile in his eyes. That was a deep confidence. Not advisable. Although my attack is strong, it's difficult to break through the defense of an ordinary Saint King. With his astral origin power and innate defensive treasure, it's not difficult to block my attack. Even, it won't be easy for me to get close to him. There are too many uncertainties and too many changes. Even what I'm thinking now might be within his expectations. If I want to injure him, there's only one possibility. With a flash of light in his eyes, Lin Feng pursed his lips. The dense engulfing fire instantly sprang up. With a dragon-like power, it instantly broke the ice binding slightly. In an instant, whoosh! Lin Feng moved like an arrow shooting out from a bow. The dense flames intertwined. The engulfing fire surged and enveloped him like the bright stars in the sky. The misty cloud steps was executed as he wished. The space seemed to be torn apart. His speed was extremely fast. Facing the rapid pressure and restraint, Lin Feng was like a spring that was constantly being squeezed. He completely erupted. The greater the pressure, the stronger the strength. All along, Lin Feng had been facing all kinds of difficulties and overcoming all kinds of obstacles. This was the path that one had to take to become an emperor. A faint smile appeared at the corner of Ho's mouth. Only his right hand appeared from his hands behind his back. However, in an instant, a snowflake-like white light appeared. An extremely cold air completely enveloped the surroundings. The extreme coldness caused one's hair to stand on end. Even the space itself was frozen. Ho! Like a strong wind blowing through a candle flame, Lin Feng's expression instantly changed. His perception of the space was completely sealed. His footsteps were in a mess. The execution of the misty cloud steps was completely interrupted. However, this wasn't the most terrifying thing. The most shocking thing was that the engulfing fire seemed to have met its nemesis and wilted. Its luster dimmed and lost its vitality. Ho was a water celestial spirit master. The situation was completely under his control. First attack, Ho said indifferently. His tone was calm and proud. His body didn't even move an inch. It was as if he didn't feel any threat from Lin Feng's attack. The feeling of being in control was too terrifying. But this is only the first attack, Lin Feng roared. His eyes shone brightly in his autonomous state. The soul power in his mind poured out like a tidal wave, completely converging to form a fiery red sparrow. It flew out from his eyes like an illusion and a shadow. This was the eye technique that he had comprehended after breaking through 70% of the Saint stage. It was an offensive ability. Vermilion Bird Attack, 10%. Lin Feng's voice was ice-cold as he released his soul attack. At this moment, Ho finally put away his relaxed expression and his eyes shone brightly. Childish. He only spat out 2 words, but the luster in his eyes was already completely bright. He also had a special eye. The enforcers of the Divine Palace were elites carefully selected by the ancients. As for the Divine Envoys, they were 1 in a million. In Ho's opinion, Lin Feng using a Saint-level Heavenly Spirit Master's attack to fight against a Saint-level Saint King's attack was the epitome of stupidity. Compared to the other 3, a Heavenly Spirit Master's attack was most particular about the level. A difference of 1 level would greatly widen the gap between their souls. This was something that could not be compensated for. A battle between 2 Heavenly Spirit Masters was the simplest and most concise way to compete. It was like standing on a 1-meter-wide arena, with 2 people throwing punches at each other. It was a battle of pure strength. There was not a single bit of luck to speak of. Ho! As if thinking of something, Ho frowned. The light that had just lit up in his eye patch was extinguished. Only his right eye was left flashing. The power of his soul seemed to have been forcefully suppressed. It was a feeling of helplessness. Cunning human. Ho's expression was unfriendly. In his opinion, if he used a soul attack against a soul attack, he was 100% confident that he could destroy Lin Feng's soul. But he had just said that he would give Lin Feng 3 chances to attack. If he killed Lin Feng in 1 attack, wouldn't he be slapping himself in the face? To the prideful ancient race, Ho, who had a strong sense of self-esteem, could not accept this. He would not make an exception for such a lowly human. Therefore, his vast power was completely suppressed. However, even this suppressed power was not something that Lin Feng could withstand. Bang! The power of their souls collided. The fiery red vermilion bird seemed to have entered a mirror with a cold aura. In an instant, fresh blood was spat out. Lin Feng's face was ghastly pale. However, Ho's lips curled into a cold smile. With his strength, it would be easy for him to destroy Lin Feng with his power of the soul, let alone block it. But no wonder Qi Tong died in his hands. A cold glint flashed across Ho's eyes. The first time they made contact, although Qi wasn't injured, he still felt some pressure. The amount of soul energy that came into contact with Qi would be depleted, even if his opponent was only a martial saint. However, his eye technique was not weak. Unfortunately, if I were a sorcerer, his sneak attack would have succeeded. But now, he is digging his own grave. Ho laughed disdainfully. Ho could feel that Lin Feng's aura was weakening. Even if one was only defending against a soul attack, the reaction was relative. Even if he did not really attack Lin Feng, his impenetrable defense was enough to make Lin Feng suffer. The game will end sooner. Ho was calm and composed. However, he did not see Lin Feng's lowered head. A glint flashed across his eyes. Most of the time, what one saw and felt might not be the truth. Similarly, it could be a trap. Second attack. Lin Feng's deep voice sounded. 2 more chapters, 12 consecutive chapters, the small boss is very strong. Chapter 1187. Hua. Ho's expression changed slightly. It came very quickly. Lin Feng's attack was faster than he had imagined. Although his aura had weakened slightly, it was the aura of the soul. His physical strength did not decrease at all. That determined expression, accompanied by the bright red light of the engulfing fire, Lin Feng once again engaged in close combat. Qi. Like an amethyst spear, it pierced through. Lin Feng, full power. Fight! Lin Feng's expression was firm. Purple light flashed in his hand, and the amethyst spear appeared. Although the space was sealed, and using the vast star pupil to break it would consume a lot of energy, even if he did not use the mist cloud steps, he had absolute confidence in his speed. There were no tricks and no extra movement. A spear, with an absolute offensive, rushed forward. Ho, if you have the ability, don't dodge. Lin Feng's eyes flashed as he shouted. Bullying. A direct challenge. In Ho's eyes, this was something that could not be tolerated. He was a divine emissary, and even among saint kings, he was a cut above them. Being challenged by a human saint was a rare thing to him. If he were to dodge now, would he still have face? Do I need to? Ho's eyes lit up. There was no need to make a big fuss over a mere human. Although he said that, he was not stupid. He naturally understood that this was Lin Feng's provocation. Close combat was indeed the ancient race's weakness. But. A power that seemed to be sealed in ice appeared in both of Ho's hands this time. Although he had been provoked, he had taken the initiative to be provoked. However, this did not mean that he would lose his cool and would follow Lin Feng's wishes. He just wanted to prove that even in close combat, he was enough to complete victory. I will make you accept your defeat wholeheartedly. Ho's right eye shot out a cold light. The world of ice arrived. The sky cracked like snowflakes, and a cold aura completely froze Lin Feng. Powerful star source energy covered the surroundings, crushing the power of fire into pieces. Even if this was not Ho's full strength, but it was enough to seal Lin Feng completely. Powerful! It's really amazing. Lin Feng's fighting spirit was boiling. The strength of the Black Lotus was even more terrifying than he had imagined. Even if he had the geographical advantage, there was still a huge gap between them. Actually, he had intentionally used the Vermilion Bird Assault just now. If he had used a normal soul attack, he would have definitely suffered a backlash. However, the Vermilion Bird Assault only consumed his soul energy and was an attack of its own. Naturally, it wouldn't cause him any harm. Qi Tong had suffered a great loss previously. The weakening of his soul aura was naturally done on purpose. He was indeed worthy of being an oracle. He was not affected by the first attack at all. Fortunately, I didn't send out my clone, Lin Feng thought to himself. Actually, he had the opportunity to send out his doppelganger, and the situation would definitely be better than now. However, even if the clone and the main body attacked together, the chances of injuring the Ho were minuscule. Moreover, the secret of the existence of his clone would be exposed, which would be a disaster for him. His clone was his final trump card. Once his true body was killed, he still had a clone. Like the heavenly secret Saint Sovereign, he still had hope. The most important thing was, whether it was the first attack or the second attack, they were merely preparations. It was an ambush for the final attack. He had never thought that he would be able to injure the Ho with just the first two attacks. With the Ho's full defense, this was an impossible mission. It was like a cat catching a mouse. He couldn't win this so-called game at all. His only chance was when he underestimated his opponent. Close in again. The purple crystal spear rumbled. Together with the dazzling devouring fire, Lin Feng's eyes shone brightly. He turned into a sharp arrow and completely disregarded life and death. He flew over from the horizon like a fiery light, breaking through this frozen land. Intense chi waves rose along with the Ho's aura, causing the entire region to be shaken. This was a battle between true powerful beings. In the distance, there was a long stretch of fire canyon. The fire here burned for a long time, so the chi of fire here was rather dense. The terrifying temperature made even cosmic realm states shrink back. In the long crevice of the canyon, the temperature of the flames was even more terrifying. The true flames of the Earth's core. It spread through the surface and into the crevice. Perhaps even a saint-level powerhouse would be burned to ashes. However, at this moment, there was a fiery red figure sitting cross-legged in the crevice, cultivating. It was a woman wearing fiery red scaled armor. The phoenix crown on her head made her look extremely noble and beautiful. Her exquisite and graceful body formed perfect curve. Her proud figure and her beautiful face formed the most beautiful picture in the world. The flames burned fiercely around her body, following her like a shadow. Not only did they not cause her any harm, but they also wrapped around her like little fairies, forming a beautiful illusion on her back. It was a flaming phoenix, just like the star mark on her forehead, clear and bright. Suddenly, pop! The phoenix woman opened her eyes. The phoenix star mark on her forehead seemed to cry loudly, causing the intense flames of the Earth's core to retreat 3 feet. Her beautiful eyes flashed slowly. The phoenix woman raised her head and looked at the sky. "What is he doing here?" the phoenix woman said softly. Her voice was very soft, but it was like the sound of nature reverberating 3 feet. Her beautiful brows slightly raised. Although there was some curiosity in the phoenix woman's eyes, she immediately closed them again. Her breath was long, and she entered the state of cultivation again. He did not dodge, nor did he dodge. Facing Lin Feng's attack, the Ho's expression was rather serious. The freezing halo in his hand suddenly bloomed, and his chi seemed to freeze all the flames. Although he was a heavenly spirit master, he was still a sacred lord-level powerhouse. Even if he had the strength of a heavenly martial artist, he had full confidence in fighting against Lin Feng. The gap between their levels was unavoidable. The battle intent in his eyes was clear. His left eye, which was covered by the eye patch, had a cold light jumping like a demon. One black, one white. 2 figures collided like 2 shooting stars, approaching at an extremely fast speed. Bang! 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 Lin Feng's heart was beating fast. All the sounds around him seemed to disappear as he entered his own world. At this moment, Lin Feng could only see Bai's right eye, which was shining with cold light, and the mysterious and terrifying power hidden under the eye patch. However, there was no way to consider. No matter how terrifying the Ho's hidden strength was, it had nothing to do with him, because he already had no way out. "This is your last chance. And also my only chance." The power erupted like a flood. Lin Feng felt that the distance between him and the Ho was getting closer and closer. Every moment seemed to be as long as 100 years or even 1,000 years. Every minute was as far as light years. All the subtle fluctuations of the aura became indescribable at this moment. It was fast but also very slow. Closer. Closer. Good. Now. Lin Feng fiercely gritted his teeth, and his aura instantly erupted. He completely estimated the distance between them, to the point that every minute difference was like a speck of dust. At this moment, the power of both his eyes in his self-state completely erupted. The bottleneck of the vast star pupil and vast star pupil that had been suppressed all this time seemed to have broken through in an instant, appearing like a cocoon. Under the pressure, it displayed an astonishing eruption. For the last time, and also for the only time, hope! Vermilion bird attack, 50%. Lin Feng shouted with a hysterical voice. With the control of the power of the soul, 50% of the vermilion bird attack's power was already the limit. He couldn't control any more and couldn't display it. It wasn't just the control of the soul, it was also the understanding of the ability. This was already the limit of his current power. His strongest move. Clang. The bird's cry was loud. The fiery red color illuminated the sky. All the power was released at this moment, turning into the purest power. The third attack. Lin Feng gritted his teeth, and his blood color was ferocious. His entire person seemed to have turned into a crazy Azura from hell. The explosive power was completely released, like a flood breaking through a dam. It didn't matter how big the difference in strength was, or how small the probability was. He would fight to the end. He had no way to retreat. "How dare you!" Lei Lei roared, and Gui Li was extremely angry. He was completely checkmated by Lin Feng. He never thought that Lin Feng would be so cunning. In the open, he planned one path, but in the dark, his close combat attacks were fake, and his soul attack was real. He had calculated everything. He originally thought that it was a game of cat and mouse, but he didn't expect that he, the third messenger, would be played by a lowly human. How could he tolerate this? How could he tolerate this? "You're courting death." Gui Li's expression was crazed, and his eyes were filled with anger. At such a close distance, he didn't have time to display the power of his eyes, and Lin Feng's attack was too fast. Everything happened in a matter of seconds. It was like a vermilion bird burning with scarlet flames, rushing into the frozen world like a moth to a flame. The raging flames burned the entire world, like sparks of fire starting a prairie fire. Gui Li's eyes were wide open, and they were bloodshot and ferocious. Boom! It went straight into his mind. Lin Feng's soul wasn't inferior to that of an ordinary ancient race sage. This could be seen from the battle with Qitong. Combined with the super-strong attack power of his top-tier eyes, his originally impressive power was raised to another level. Coupled with the sudden upgrade of his vast star eyes, Lin Feng's soul attack had been raised to the level of a divine lord. Even the most ordinary attack of a divine lord couldn't be underestimated. This was because this was an attack of a heavenly soul master. It was an attack that was close at hand, and it went straight into the soul space of his mind. There were no superfluous techniques, and it was a pure competition. And the battlefield was Gui Li's body. Ah! Gui Li's head was in intense pain, and his expression was ferocious. It was as if his head had been destroyed, and he was hysterical. His eyes were bleeding, and he had turned into a demon. No matter how strong he was injured by a soul attack at such a close distance. A true Holy Lord level powerhouse was finally injured. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.